One. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to round 2 of the Shadow and Bone live show discussion. We are doing episodes 4 through 6 today. I always do that wrong. And I'm very excited to have all these special guests and mega fans here with me today. So go ahead and introduce yourselves, please.
Katie, you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Katie from Katie Can't Read. Is that what I'm saying? Is there more?
Say whatever you want to say.
You should say your favorite character, too.
Oh,
I'm
I'll show
down
you
for
my character.
There he is.
Obviously. Oh my god, now I feel...
Stan, president of the fan club, and that's why we're here today.
Oh my god.
I wonder if it's a bit unhealthy, but I do admire your commitment.
No, it's okay. I feel like he deserves it.
I'm Rachel from Let Me in the Library. I binged the show today so I could be here, and I love everybody so much despite barely reading the books. I've read 2 books, and now I just love everybody. I feel like Jesper is a major fave for me. I also just really like Jessie's portrayal of Alina. I really love her a lot. And Inej. Okay, we can talk about it later. It's fine. I just love everybody. It's fine.
My favorite character is all of them.
It's all of them. It's truly all of them. Like the group chat blowing up today while I was reading, while I was watching everything. We'll talk about it later.
I loved it.
Hi, Rita.
Hi. I was literally like typing in the chat, Jayla, please let me in. I'm sorry.
No, it was so bad. I was trying to get down to you, but you're like on another level from everyone else, and I couldn't figure out how to scroll down. I didn't see this little scroll bar here. So sorry, I was struggling over here.
No, it's okay. I just didn't know if you were like seeing me or not. But...
I got you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Rita, and say your favorite character.
How? I mean,
Just click all
so I'm Rita. I am from Life Worth Reading over here on BookTube. And how does one choose a favorite character? I would like to know.
I just simply didn't. I just chose them all.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I do have a soft spot for just like the 3 crows. So I really like their dynamic in the show. Like Kaz and Inej. I mean, probably Inej. Because I was just obsessed with her and how Amita portrayed her. I feel it was so amazing. So right now it would probably be her, yeah.
That's you.
My name's Yasmin from Yasmin Be Reading. My favorite characters are Jasper, Inej, Shirtless Mal, and then everyone else.
Wait, Mal's in there twice.
Yeah, but like Shirtless Mal is just.
What about like Soldier Mal versus just Shirtless Mal versus Muscle Mal?
Yeah. Shirtless Mal, Muscle Mal, Soldier Mal.
Injured Mal.
Wait, what about Mal?
Oh my gosh,
Injured Mal is in every episode, literally.
I need to put him right up. Also,
there's also Dirty Mal.
Dirty Mal.
He's dirty all the time, though.
Pretty much.
Fighting Mal.
What about in the field as a child and like the little hand reaching out? That's like
there's so many Mals.
There's
That's like a cute Mal, though. You know. I'm in love with that Mal.
So fun.
Hey guys, my name's Christine. I'm one half of the Roomies Digest. In the books, my favorite characters are definitely the crows, but in the show, I am loving David.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
And he doesn't have like that many parts.
Shady Awakens.
I love
He's
him.
definitely not in it enough.
I was like, ooh, so funny. But also
I agree. I think David adds like a really strong comedic element that I was not expecting. I was just expecting his character to just be there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know like what his deal was. I just knew that Katie loved him. But then like just little things were like the thing in the carriage, the thing with him like having to raise his hand to talk to the Darkling, where it's like, you're not in class.
I agree.
It's funny because he's just as funny in the books. It's just drier. Just drier.
Is he?
There's a whole
reread
that I remembered in Ruin and Rising where they're like, oh, there's too much weight on this ship. And Tolia's like, stop looking at me, David. Like, there's just like a whole scene.
I have to go back because I definitely did not respect David as much as I should. But hi, I'm Jayla. I'm from Lala Loves Lit. You're on my channel. You probably know that already. And my favorite character is definitely Jesper. He's just like out acting everybody, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of great actors in this show. And then firstly the goat, then Jesper. And the goat doesn't even have to try. He just has to be there. And I just love him so much. So but let's get into the actual show. But I want to say hi to Stephanie first. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. And she agrees about David. Oh, and Milo. Love that. Yeah, I think he's just a fan favorite, and he was not in the book, so that's the best change they made to the show.
Yeah, that was the best decision they've ever made.
They knew what they were doing.
Yes.
But anyway, so how do we feel about episode 4, which is I cannot pronounce the title of, but it was Atkazatsya. Who speaks Russian?
That was really good.
Oh, really? Thanks for hyping me up. But overall,
Does someone wanna give a little recap?
overall.
Does someone want to give a little recap? One sentence recap.
I was just about to say we should say what happened because guess who
Yeah.
forgot?
I have
Me.
notes
So
written
you want
Damn, Jayla.
for all
Preparation.
Let me
Oh
go
my
through it real quick for episode 4. First off, what happens? Alina and the Darkling go on a ride with horses. I don't remember where they go, but he says, "Call me Alexander." And I wanted to say that that's so.
That was a
Weird.
very quick moment. It was
I
so
hate
quick
that.
in the show.
I didn't like it because it was such a big secret, and then in there he just casually threw it out.
Yeah.
I don't really
Is that his
ship
real name?
Darklina, but it was such an important thing in the books, like for their development, like the development of their relationship. Not like even romantically, I'm just like in general, like between them. It was such a big
I
moment.
also feel like he's so dignified, and like the way that he said it in the book was so like, oh wow, like we're gonna take this like as a serious moment. And then in the thing, he just got on his horse and he was like, by the way, call me Alexander and let's go.
And it was such
north.
an
And it was like,
intimate moment
okay.
in the books. Like it was such an intimate moment.
Which
They
book
were like,
do we find out his name? Because I don't
In the
know
last
his
one,
name.
it's the last one.
Ruin
It's
and
the last
Rising,
one.
I
It's
think.
literally like one of the last scenes in the
Really?
book.
Really?
Yeah.
If
Because
not the last scene.
I just finished Siege and Storm and we didn't get
Wow.
it yet.
No. It's
at
in the
all.
last book, and it's like in you know, like
It's like
when they can
70
travel to each other,
Mm-hmm.
like and like be with each other. It's like one in those moments. So it's like really intimate. I'm not like I don't ship them, but like it's like a really intimate moment, and they're just like together, and he says it, and she's just like, oh damn, like I can't believe he just shared this.
Well,
And then the show,
in
you're just
that
like,
moment-
call me Alex, and I'm like,
Yeah. He's
I
like
mean,
trying
I
to be more human, I think, in the books, like because everybody calls him the Darkling. So like when he shares his name with her, I think he's trying to be like, you know, I'm a.
He's trying to
human
like
too.
level
yes,
with her.
Like
yeah.
even though I've done all these horrible things, and so that moment in the TV show, I was like, why do
Okay,
you think
Also,
that? I don't know.
before we go any further, can we confirm that we're not going to be spoiling Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom, or Ruin and Rising?
I would
Oh.
never.
Ruin and Rising, we kind of just did, right? I'm sorry, I didn't know
Okay,
that was.
well, can we give a spoiler warning? Because I've literally only read Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm so far.
Oh my god, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I
I
didn't
mean,
know
you're
that.
being
We can
only
just
the
talk
only
about
thing
the things
with
that
the
happen
Nina
in
and
the show.
Matthias moments, that's the only thing that'll probably be spoiled for you because you're watching them happen in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think
It's exactly the same
It doesn't
thing that
happen
happens in
in
the
the show, we won't tell you.
There you go.
Oh my god,
Okay.
Rachel, I feel so bad. I'm
You're too
sorry, I didn't
I don't
know.
know.
It's
Okay.
I'm really great at just blocking things out and pretending that they never happened. So we'll just pretend it never
I'm so
happened. It's fine.
sorry.
I do
Um,
want to say Stephanie also hated this reveal. It was really bad. I don't know why they did it and why they did it so early. I didn't know what happened in the third book.
Maybe they did it because him having no name. I mean, in my opinion, I thought that was so stupid in the books. Like the fact that he was only the Darkling, I was like,
Well,
I don't
Steph,
know.
Yaz,
Maybe
and I
it's
were
just
on
me.
a show talking about this before, about how his name is just the Darkling, and like Steph had read the books already, so she was just quietly like, ha ha ha. But both Yaz and I were like, who names their kid the Darkling? Like that's a stupid name, and like I get he's supposed to be like, oh, it's the he who shall not be
So
named
stupid.
as the Darkling or whatever. But we were kind of like, do they call him that to his face? Like it just seems kind of like. What?
But did they call him General?
They
something
call him
in the
Kerrigan.
books?
General Kerrigan.
No, General
In the
Kerrigan is a
show.
different character in the book.
But in the books, not right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, I don't think they ever did that in the books. As far as I know, literally were like, "That's the Darkling," and then she would just be like, "Hi, the Darkling," and I was like, "What is going on right now?" Like, okay,
Mr. the Darkling, I need you. I need to ask you
Mr. The
please,
sir.
Mr. the Darkling was my
The
father.
Darkling.
Call me the Darkling.
Call me Mr. the Darkling was my. Oh my god!
Oh my god, there's 2 Yasmins.
Oh, Inception.
Yeah, hey.
Oh my god.
How did she do that?
Wait, why are you here
Wait, I
twice?
think you removed the wrong Yaz.
Yeah, you might
Oh
have to.
no! I'll put this Yasmin back in.
Hey, Catherine.
Okay.
This is
What is
fun.
going on?
The whole party. Okay, sorry to derail that for a second. I was very confused. But anyway, yes, Mr. the Darkling.
Yeah.
Mr.
Hi, Catherine.
the Darkling.
What a boy.
Hi, Catherine.
Catherine, we were just saying who our favorite characters were a little while ago. If you want to tell us.
Oh, Nina Zenik, all day, every day, always.
Even
A
in
really
the show?
good choice.
In this adaptation?
I really enjoyed Nina in the show. There's I definitely have certain things that could have been better, but I still loved her. So
I wish she
I
got
say that
more
literally
screen
about the whole show. I'm like, there's
What?
certain things that could have been better about the whole show, but like overall, I loved it.
It's such
Yeah.
a good show.
Yeah.
They knocked
So
it out of the
good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Answer.
Okay, wait, we barely did any of the recap. So far, they got
Oh
on
no,
a
yeah,
horse.
we're gonna keep
So-
going. I just wanted to keep the conversation relevant, and I want to be more on top of the comments this time.
Yeah.
So, hi Taylor, thank you for your input.
Okay, I was gonna say I really didn't remember a General Kerrigan
Yeah.
in the book.
There's
Speaking
a
of
there's a
stars.
Count
It's a
Kerrigan,
Count
and
Kerrigan.
yeah,
Okay.
Why do
And,
they
Yeah.
do that?
Not the same at all. Count Kerrigan is
yeah, they're not
hilarious
related.
and not the same at all.
Why would they
No.
name them the same name?
I don't know. It's making me think that like maybe he assumed his identity or something, and they're gonna bring it back around later in the show. But like, I really don't know.
That
Oh,
would
I mean,
make more
it
sense.
is mentioned in
They
the
did say in the show, yeah, that he like assumes identities.
Right,
Yeah,
so-
and it
Oh,
says
yeah.
at one point, like I can't remember which episode it was in, so it could be a later episode.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure Bagra was like, yes, he chose like the name of a
Oh yeah.
what like an aristocrat, so
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
he
like
would
a
have
I
high
think
more
that was the
power.
last episode, like 6th episode
Mhm.
6. I'm pretty sure.
That's when they tell. That's when Bagra tells, or is that 5? When maybe it is
Oh, when she talks to Alina, that's in 5. Yeah.
when she drops all the info.
So
When
maybe
Bagra's
5.
Here's the tea.
Love Bagra. Also Bagra's another favorite character of mine. I love her so much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
I love her.
I have to disagree, but I'm going to keep going with the
What?
recap, and then we can get into more of that. And so we say goodbye to the goat in episode 4, and their moment together was really cute. Mal goes hunting for the stag. Also, we need to talk about how his friends died trying to help him, and that really sucks. The training sequence, which is just Alina getting beat up a lot by Bagra, which is why I don't know why you guys are standing her a little
I
bit.
love it. Pop, pop.
Honestly, Bagra could whack me with her cane any day.
This is concerning.
Bagra's
Bagra's
old
cane
for
or
that time.
Kaz's cane?
Bagra is a
Ooh.
Oh,
mill.
Kaz for sure.
Right?
My
Girl.
guy, my guy, Kaz.
That's got a heavy head. I don't think so.
Hell yeah.
Ew. No,
Wait,
no
who said that?
screaming on his part.
Oh my god.
Then
that.
we have the crows go on a heist to find the blueprints for the palace.
Oh, that was so good.
They did my man
It's all
wrong
really
with
good.
that outfit, Lord.
No, that was his
Oh no.
outfit when he
I
showed
love
up.
I don't know
that.
what made them think that he
I don't
needed
know
to
what they
dress
were
up like
thinking.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I
he
have
was
to
just
erase
like a
that one.
He's an
scholar.
artiste.
He's an
an artist.
artist.
It just adds to me not taking Kaz seriously. Like
It was
I
goofy.
agree.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
undercover. Was he supposed to dress as Kaz Brecker when he's supposed to be
Yes.
undercover?
No, but I mean, he
Oh,
dressed
no.
like he was carrying baguettes into the museum.
But
Like,
it's not.
It's fine.
Yeah, it was just hard. He just doesn't look like a mastermind. A mastermind can still be dressed in black and look intimidating. He doesn't have to be super goofy. But
That had
I
to
don't know. I
be-
enjoyed the scene though.
That was a very Jasper outfit, if anything.
Yeah,
anyone
they should have put
Yeah.
Jasper in it.
I don't know.
Also,
If
Aw.
someone's undercover, then I feel like they shouldn't dress like they're a
He definitely didn't look
mastermind.
like Kaz.
it's,
We can all
I think
agree
it's a
on that.
difference of like, if in real life you just got to do what you got to do, then yeah, you got to dress however. But I think I don't even know Kaz. I haven't even read Six of Crows, but I feel like if you're the mastermind and then you like actually go in the front and you're going to be the distraction, then it just makes it seem like you're not as dignified because you're not behind the scenes because you have to be right there. You have to be the distraction. The mastermind should be like the person who's just behind the scenes who's like, this is what we're going to do, this. It's like if you watch like, I don't know, like Ocean's 11, like George Clooney might still be like the distraction guy, but he looks cool the whole time. He doesn't look like he's carrying a little picnic basket of a sandwich into the museum to be like, please, sir, will my baguette fit into the French quarters? We don't know. Like, I don't know. It just seemed very peculiar.
Beautiful and
Also
given who he
doesn't
is.
have like a full team yet either. So 'cause this is like
Yeah. I raise you that he's trying to be as indiscreet and unlike himself as possible, so they don't get any suspicions from him.
Yeah.
Where
Like,
he's
it makes
I mean, I get it. I'm just saying.
You know?
It just made me laugh, okay? There's nothing
Yeah, I
wrong
feel like it
with
was just
I
used for like
like,
comedic relief and for
I mean,
Cass
it's
to be
a-
more likable for the
It's
people
a very
that don't know
surprising
anything about it.
outfit. It just like it makes sense to me, but yeah.
I agree. I think it was just to get a laugh out of us, and it did the trick, and he looked stupid as fuck in it. So, other things that happened were the chemistry between Nina and Matthias. Like they start out on the boat, and he feeds her the bread, and she spits it in his face. Just a beautiful,
So good.
really romantic scene together.
Jayla. No.
My queen.
enemies to lovers.
Do we not agree? I know that it's like problematic because I'm sorry, but there was something very sexual about that scene to me.
But
And like,
when she spat out at him.
no, I mean everything leading up to that. Like, I don't want to say.
I
I mean,
figure it was
they've
just 'cause
always
she's
had the sexual
restrained.
chemistry, you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but,
supposed
like-
to feel that from the performance.
I felt uncomfortable feeling that, but I did feel it. So I was like, oh, this is weird. Like she's all chained up, she's soaking wet, and they're just like her chest is rising very heavily, and they're all up in each other's faces, and I'm like, this is very sexual.
But
I'm
at the
into
same time,
it,
she
but
was
it's
so
weird.
miserable.
Oh, I didn't see it that way at all. I just thought it was because she was like, "Oh, you want something from me?" And I was like, "Are you gonna kiss?" And he was like, "I want information." And I was like, "Oh, all right, whatever."
Ew, if he kissed her while she was chained up, no.
Yeah. Also the scene where they're on the plank in the water.
Yes. Oh my god, is that the same episode?
I think it actually happens in episode 5, but
I feel like it's the
I think
beginning of
that's-
the next episode.
Yeah, episode 5.
I will finish this recap real quick. Okay, Jesper's amazing. What did I write? Jesper's amazing. That's what I wrote.
That's
and then
enough.
they do the thing where they get roped into the performance, and Jesper does the gun thing with Inej holding the card in her mouth, which
Oh my
was
god,
so cool.
Inej looked so good.
I was just like, I would not trust. I mean, I feel like I should trust because I know he could do it, but if I have a card in my mouth,
I would just like the thing is he would do it, and then my pants would just be full of shit the whole time because I would just be so afraid the whole time.
you can do it, but you can still be scared. Yeah.
I thought you were going somewhere else.
Yeah,
with
I had
that.
no idea.
I thought you were gonna say
That was
with my-
it, actually. I would just be fully pooping myself because it's so scary.
But can we talk about how
Valid.
good Inej looked in that performance and like how much effort like Amita put into it? Because it was incredible.
Yeah.
I definitely thought it was a stunt double, but
She said that there were some things that was a stunt double, but also a lot of it was her.
Yeah.
Because
like
I saw a
Because
lot
I
of like
figured like all the
backstage
twirling
photos.
and
yeah,
stuff
because you
on
couldn't see her
that.
face.
You never saw her face, so I figured it was a stunt
Yeah.
double just
Yeah, but
because
I
I,
also saw a
just
lot of
assumed.
backstage photos of like her trying out some of those stuff. So I
Yeah,
thought that
Yeah, but I
was
bet she had to
really
do like a
good.
significant amount of it just to like come out of the
Yeah.
pose.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was a very cool thing because like I did like again I don't know the Crows really, so I didn't
Yeah.
really expect it when they were like, oh, we need someone to do this. I was like, is Kaz gonna do it? And they were like, Inej is gonna do it, and I was like, okay, I guess that
I
makes
love
more
when
sense.
Kaz is just. I love when Kaz is just
Sorry,
like,
the idea
I'll
of
find another way in.
yeah.
As
And he's just like so curious, like
Yeah.
Look, he already did the baguette thing. I was like, this man could do anything now, I guess.
Literally.
when they were like,
So
"Can you
full-on
perform?
clown.
Fine.
Can you perform?" And he was just like, "I'll find another way."
Yeah, he was like, I'll make my own way, and I was like, okay.
You know what's the worst part of that? Kaz canonically does sleight of hand magic. He totally should have joined the circus.
He absolutely should have. He's not too good for the circus.
Is this your card?
Oh, what else happens? The Darkling is really going down an emo path to get Alina to care about him. This is where he like spews about how alone he is and how there's so much pressure on him, and Alina kisses him and the whole thing.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which I was not a fan of, but it's fine. And then finally, and then Mal, so they go flashback to Mal like finding Alina when they were soldiers a few months or years ago, I don't know. And they find out that she's in the brig because she hit the quartermaster. And
because he called her a name.
Yeah.
And he goes and finds the quartermaster. And he's like, "Are you the quartermaster?" Bam! Like, oh.
I love that scene so much. It was so cute. And then they're in the jail together, and that was a way to end the show.
That's
the recap.
So great because it's like he doesn't even explain to her what happened, that he did that to be in there with her.
Yeah.
And he also didn't explain that, like, he was so mad at the quartermaster that he would go and do that. On top of that, just because he had called like her a name is like enough to set him off to be like, I'm gonna go punch him in the face too.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't even tell Alina like what he did. He's just like, oh, I got 11 stitches, and she's like, oh, we match. And I'm like,
yeah, like it further proves that like Mal doesn't know how to talk about his feelings, but it's fine. He gets there.
It was really so. But yeah, that is the recap. So if there's anything specifically you want to talk about, I definitely want to talk about Mal hunting the stag and his friends dying, and then I feel like we don't grieve them properly at all for the next few episodes. Like they're just dead and they're gone, which is really a bummer.
It was so sad because they're like comic relief, but they're also like his buddies. Yeah. And like they don't let him go off by himself. Like at the beginning, earlier episodes, he tries to go after Alina and they're like, stop. If you're going to be, like basically someone's going to come and probably kill you, or you'll be like dishonorably discharged because you're abandoning our group. Don't do that. You're just going to get yourself killed. What do you expect? They're there for him. And then in this one where he's like, I'm hunting the stag, they're like, we volunteer with you. They're like, they always have his back. And like, there's still the comic relief where like they pick up the poop because they're like, oh, if it's the stag's poop, I bet you could sell this. And the other guy's like, he's like, think about it. How much money could we get? And he's like, fine, I want half your cut. And I'm like, these idiots, but also like they're lovable. And when they just got attacked in the woods, I was totally thrown for a loop. Like, what? I don't remember this happening in the books, number one. And number two, like, just like it was so brutal and it was just out of nowhere.
The fight scenes in this show are so good and so much more impressive than I thought they would be, and so much bloodier than I thought they would be. Just
oh my god, the way that they would just like stab people in the chest, or like when Mal wakes up and there's a guy like one of his friends is getting killed basically, and the other guy's like, make sure that one's dead, and he like shoots the guy in the crotch and then shoots the guy over there. Like, what? I'm still processing the fact that guy is over there getting stabbed in the chest, and Mal's just like power moves like this fast. But wow,
that scream that the one guy let out when he got stabbed in the chest, that really broke me. So like Taylor, I feel you. I wasn't crying, but I was like, damn, like they're actually dead, and they were the comic relief, and they were talking about poop like a few scenes ago, and now they're just gone.
Exactly.
I loved them. They were the definition of like a healthy boys will be boys kind of thing.
Yeah.
Throughout it.
They were himbos. It was nice.
They were himbos.
Oh, hardcore.
You got it.
Let me catch up on these comments real quick. I have a feeling they're trying to start Kaz's arc being really calculated, even more ruthless, like an SOC, because he felt tame in comparison. I think that's what we talked about last time, too.
Yeah. I agree.
I personally feel like they're supposed to be like, who he is now is who he's supposed to be, but I think I'm very alone in that sentiment. So I don't know.
I hope you're wrong, because
I know. I hope I'm wrong too, to be clear. I don't want that to be the case.
But then it doesn't make sense that they would make him even more unlikable as the show goes on. Like, wouldn't it be the other way around?
I don't know that he would be unlikable. I think that it would just be like, oh, it's like a corruption arc almost. In a way.
I think they're just trying to show the audience the arc of Kaz instead of having him start out as like this really kind of like character you don't understand. So if we see him now kind of as like this funny baguette guy who is a mastermind and like good at sleight of hands, then we'll just kind of love him going forward.
Even as he's doing, because I think like in a book, a lot of the times readers can be a little bit more forgiving because you're willing to stick with the book and see what's up with this character. But American audiences tend to just be like, oh, he was mean, so I don't like him. And it's like that fast. And then even if that person redeems themselves, you're still like, yeah, but remember when they were mean in episode 1, so I still don't like them. So they sort of have to like develop the characters that way. I think it's so interesting, like obviously for the millionth time, I haven't read Six of Crows, but I know that like everything that we're watching right now doesn't happen in the books. So I feel like it's so interesting to just like everyone here, this is new for everybody, but we're playing with the same characters that everybody, at least from some way, shape, and form, kind of knows these characters. And now they're sort of like, is this the same person that they are? Like, we can definitely see, like, Inej isn't quite the person she's going to be because she's unwilling to kill people in episode 4. But it's really interesting to see that as they kind of progress into these characters that I assume they will turn into by the time that the show gets around to Six of Crows.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
There are
Rachel-
some scenes that are flashbacks in Six of Crows, like all the Nina's.
Yeah.
Nina and
Say Hillman. Taylor got you.
those are all flashbacks. So some of them are from the book.
And Rachel, you're saying about Kaz too, specifically like his difference between the book, which like I know you haven't read it yet, but you'll see when you do eventually get to it, Kaz is a deeply internal character. Like everything about him that makes him likable is on the inside. It's in his internal monologue. Like
it's hard to translate on screen for sure.
like him. And so that's sort of, I think, the struggle too with when they were writing Kaz was they had to figure out how to make his internal monologue, his personality, or like, you know, show it a little bit more for the audiences. Because if we had never gotten a Kaz internal monologue, I don't think anyone would have liked him. I think he would have gotten book maltreatment. You know what I mean? Like, if you never got to see his inner truth. And so,
Okay, interesting.
It honestly kind of reminds me of how like Matthias was in the beginning of Six of Crows, because like we don't really get his POV a lot. So that's kind of what it would remind me of, because at first I was like, who's this Joker? You know what I mean? And you know, then eventually you love him. But
Okay. Also, totally different scene, but I was just gonna say I had kind of messaged the group chat about this, but there was the moment right before, I guess, Dark Lena happens or something, when I just thought, like, I just stopped and really appreciated the show's craftsmanship itself, because sometimes there are just like very tiny little things in like kind of the periphery of the actual main scene going on. So for instance, you can see that Alina and Ben Barnes are like, they're not quite like facing each other, but one is kind of facing that way and the other one's facing the other way, but they're offset, but their shadows look like they're like facing one another and they're about to kiss. And then like 10 seconds later, they actually kiss. So in a way, like, I don't quite think it's like, I mean, it's foreshadowing, I guess.
I think that's in
for
episode
like 10
5.
seconds.
Yeah.
But I just feel like stuff like they do stuff like that, and then there's more stuff that happens in like episode 5, which we can get to, but I just really appreciate the craftsmanship of the show, that they just do these little things, that it's not just simply like, well, we heard this is popular, so let's just turn it into a show, but like they really do such a good job with it. I think that they just do a phenomenal job, not just with the casting and the acting and the scenery and everything, but just like some of those tiny little things, it just really adds a little extra something.
all in
I
the details.
agree, and I think this is not in episode 4, so sorry, and we can start going into episode 5 now. But there's, I think, in episode 6 with David in the book, and it's Shadow and Bone in his hands. Just
Yes,
like, I love that. I love that so much. I just thought that was so cute, and that was clearly for the fans. And actually, so I had a coworker call today that was completely unprofessional. We didn't talk about work at all, but we talked about Shadow and Bone. And one of the things we talked about was that people they watched it with, they felt like people who didn't read the books really would not have enjoyed the show so much. I don't know if you guys watched it with anyone who hasn't read them, but I was curious to know. Yeah, because
Actually, I have a friend who hasn't read the books at all, and she really enjoyed the show.
Yeah,
I think that people who haven't read the books won't pick up on small details that are like for the readers. There are just little things here and there for the readers. But the people that I know who haven't read the books and watched the show are really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
my friend
it's a
did
good
it.
show.
She literally binge watched the whole like season in one night. I mean, she loved it.
that's just so much information being thrown at you.
Yeah,
The thing is,
I think it might be hard to keep track of the characters, maybe, if you haven't read the books. Because there's just like, there's a lot of world building and characters between.
I mean,
the
I don't
Crows
think
and
that's any different than like shows like Game of Thrones. Like, I never read those books.
That's definitely
but
true. I think it just
there's a
kind of
ton of
depends on like the
characters.
sort of watcher that you, the sort of
Yeah.
viewer that
Yeah,
you are.
I-
Like, if you can keep track of that stuff.
I think the main difference too between Game of Thrones and Shadow and Bone is Game of Thrones is a little bit slower, though there is a lot of like world building and like characters and all these little tiny details. But with Shadow and Bone, like this show is going so quick.
It's
like
very
you watch an
fast.
episode and you're like, whoa, okay, wait, that happened in this episode? Okay. And then, So whereas with Game of Thrones it was a little tiny bit slower. But I think that's probably the only thing that I wish maybe they had like dragged it out a little bit longer for this show.
Yeah, I think it could have been better.
I think that's truly the only thing that bothers me, but it doesn't bother me that much.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that I thought was like a little bit weird, which I think was in episode 4, was when I think like the crows are doing something and all of a sudden very quickly it cuts to the Darkling being like, I have this spy and I'm looking for Nina, and the other person's like, yes sir, I'll go find her, and then it cuts right back to the crows, and it was like a 1-minute scene, and I was like, did this have to be right here? But then like the next scene after the crows is then Nina, so they just wanted to like quickly be like, oh, by the way, she's connected to this stuff, and I was like, okay, like I feel like that was a rushed job, but all right.
Some of the things they could have definitely, like, again, this didn't have to be 8 episodes. This could have been 10 episodes, but they chose to not do that for some reason, and some things could have definitely been changed out. Yeah,
well, it has to do with the budget. Yeah,
it was money.
Because
once we get the budget rolling in for next season, I'm hoping that we get more episodes.
That's all the showrunners and everything are like, we wanted it to be 10 episodes, but they would have rather spent more or invested in 8 episodes and made them 8 really good episodes versus having 10 kind of shitty episodes. Good. Yeah.
Close, but they could have done more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing
which I personally appreciate. So
I appreciate that too.
Tell me that they watched the show, and it's mostly like when they're in the second episode and they're like, I don't know what's happening, please fill me in. And then about 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, I get it now. I got it.
Okay.
So like I think it's like really confusing at first because it thrusts you in exactly the same way the books kind of do. Where the books, even Shadow and Bone, where I'm like, it's much easier to understand than Six of Crows. You're still just like dropped in, and then things kind of come to you as you keep going.
Yeah,
the show does the same thing, and I think some people that's really jarring, but some people kind of vibe with it. So it depends on who you are as a viewer.
But I also feel like that visually it helps to be watching the show, and when things visually come to you,
to see a Heartrender and to
see
the
like the Grisha powers. And in the last live, we talked about the fold and how much easier it is to understand the fold, like watching it
when you're seeing it
visually. Like
when I read the book, I saw the fold as the monster trench from the SpongeBob movie, and I'm not sure about that fact.
Literally a trench. Yes, that's what I thought too. I was like, oh, it's like a hole, kind of.
Yeah, and then it was much scarier, and then I went, oh, I would die in this universe.
Yeah.
I would die in the trench too. What do you mean?
But like, I would just avoid the trench. That was the thing.
I see the fold in this, and I'm like, I would poke it. I don't even. I would poke that thing.
Katie's like, I have no reason to be here, but I just want to touch it really bad. I want to see what it's like.
Your instincts. Oh, but Stephanie said, I actually have a friend who hasn't read the series and he liked it but didn't understand the Nina scenes and felt they were misplaced and then felt like there was some insta-love. Okay, there was definitely insta-love, but I don't care.
I feel like the Nina Matthias scenes were misplaced now. Like, for people who don't know it, they're like, this feels really out of place. But the second that season 2 starts, it's just all going to make sense. It's like, oh, there it is.
I agree with this.
Yeah,
it's groundwork.
I feel like even like knowing like 3 things about the books makes the show that much more enjoyable. Because I would watch it and then I'd be like, "That's Leigh Bardugo. That's Leigh Bardugo right there. That's the author. That's her. She's hugging her. Yeah. See her? That's her. Yeah. Isn't this exciting? We should stop and just think about why." Like,
or even just knowing what's going to happen, like knowing the Darkling isn't necessarily the good guy.
I feel like it just adds to the experience without having to actually
Darkling. That's like not knowing Darth Vader's the bad.
Well, but he's not named the Darkling in the show.
He's just General Kirigan.
Like,
I mean, if his name was like General Evil Guy, and then in episode 5 they were like, he's actually an evil guy, it'd be like, what? No way.
It's when they
They
call
actually do call him the Darkling later, though. So I thought it wasn't existing in this universe at all, but then they do it, and I was like, oh
sometimes
wait.
they call him that. I don't know.
Isn't it call him
Sometimes.
like the Black Heretic?
Yeah,
He's
he
the
has
one who
lots of
created
names.
the
Very
falls.
flattering.
I think they ended up making it like
Oh,
Darkling is like the people's name for him. Like they're
like one of the names.
I think the first time I heard it in the show
Darkling-
was when Nina was, or like Matthias was like, "Oh, the person you're working for will come hunt me. Like the Darkling will hunt me," and she's like, "Oh, like stop it." And that was like
Yeah,
the first
there's-
time I heard the word "the
Mhm.
Darkling" in the show.
Yeah,
I think.
in episode 2, there's a Fjorden who calls him Darkling. I think Darkling in the show is equivalent to calling Alina Sun Summoner. It's like, oh, that's what
like your
he
your
does.
thing.
That's
Like,
his
that's what
power.
you do.
Oh,
That
yeah.
makes more sense.
Okay.
it's like
Yeah.
it's a local term where they're like, the Darkling, you know, the man of
Yeah, instead of calling him like Shadow Summoner, it's like he's a Darkling as
Again,
opposed
though, but,
to
like,
Oh yeah, I think
Shadow
it was
Summoner
something
would be so
of
much more
dark.
badass, so I don't know where the Darkling.
Shadow Summer. Yeah,
His
that's
Shadow
so
Summoner is
insane.
like, oh, he has power. The Darkling is like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a little thing. Hi.
He's a little dark guy.
Where's your mom, hon? Where's your mom?
in the cave. Anyway,
Ooh.
in the cave.
Well,
Okay,
I think
shall
that's
we-
grounds to move into episode 5.
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh,
So in
one thing
episode-
for
oh, go ahead.
wait, one thing for episode 4, I just want to say I just love that they use Mal's letters. I love his letters because
Oh,
in
yeah.
the book it's just bonus material, and so not everyone has read that letter that he writes to Alina, and so they
I
actually
didn't read
use
that.
like word from word from that letter that is included as bonus
I
material.
noticed that because I only started reading it for the first time because Katie sent them to me over Instagram. But before that, I was like, wow, Mal doesn't even write anything to Alina. And Alina's like, Mal, I have all these feelings and I don't understand why I'm here. Mal, I wish you would write to me. And Mal's just like,
Yeah.
huh?
So I think that's like one of the reasons why I love Mal so
In the
much is because
show.
I had, well, no, in the books, like I love
Oh,
Mal.
okay.
I am unapologetically Mal stan. I
Yeah,
love
I love
him. And I think probably one of the reasons is because I had read that letter. And so like I knew everything he was thinking. So going into like Siege and Storm and Rune and Rising, I'm like, no, Alina, you're just misinterpreting what he's doing. You don't understand. So like I think that having his letter included
gave, like,
in
the
episode 4.
context.
Mhm.
yeah.
You know what I really appreciated though, but I'm not sure if it's I know it's within these episodes, but I'm not sure which one. But I really appreciated that they didn't include the scene of Mal confronting her in the little palace.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that
I was
scene
waiting for that.
because that scene was
I love that
ruthless.
so raw.
But I feel like it would have, I don't know, it's just
I-
like
I
when
think
you're building the show to ship Melina, because like they're clearly trying to put in Mal's
Clearly.
perspective so you can understand them together. I feel like that scene would have just like, it would have just ruined it.
Everything.
That
Well,
scene.
because I think what that scene would have been interesting. It would have been in episode 5 because it happens right after her
Oh, okay.
demonstration.
I truly thought he was
Yeah.
going to burst in there and fight. I was so excited.
Yeah, so it happens right after her like demonstration. I think it would have been interesting just because again, there's like it's kind of a miscommunication thing where at this point he's thinking, oh, Alina it just has completely like left and forgotten about me.
Yes.
I wrote her all these letters. She never wrote me. And because in his letter in the book, he like mentions like, you would have written me if you could, like, I know you would have. So I'm so scared about like what the Darkling is doing to you. Is he torturing you? Is he like, does he have heart renders, like manipulating you? Like that's actually in the book. And so then with the scene, it would have been interesting because he's like in his mind he's like, she would have written to me, and then she's seeing like, oh no, she actually likes it here and she just completely forgot about me. So
But I
I think
like
there's
that
like that
they-
For like
miscommunication.
maximum heartbreak
Yeah.
for the
But I like
viewers.
that they had the conversation afterwards of like, you didn't write
Yeah.
me, oh, you didn't write me, but I wrote to you. And I like that was just like, it was a little bit of a misunderstanding, like they spoke about it there and then. And I don't know, it was just, even though it was a very
It was
like
less
raw
dramatic.
scene and like a really intense scene in the books, I kind of like the route that they chose though. to like
think
still have that
really want Miles to be
miscommunication.
likable.
Yeah,
Hmm?
and still having talked about that, but
Yeah, because I think once you know what the deal is and like why the letters aren't going back and forth, then you're like, but then like once you know that, and then they're both just gonna still be mad at each other of like, you didn't write me. And it's like, yeah, well, you didn't write me. Then it's sort of like, guys, just let's think about this for a second.
Like, you know
So
what
the fact
happened.
So the fact that they don't even really like truly know what happened or whatever, but like they're still just there like, oh, you really wrote to me? And it's like, yeah, I wrote you every single day. Then it's
Keep
just
quoting
like,
the Notebook.
Sense saving that scene for a later episode where they talk about the letters because
Yeah.
they didn't do the reveal of why the letters were never sent until episode 7 or
Episode
8.
8.
Okay.
So if they had that conversation earlier, people probably would have forgotten. People who don't know the story would have forgotten their conversation. So by pushing that scene of them talking about the letters off until an episode or an episode and a half before it's revealed why the letters never happened, which it's not in our episode range, so I'm not going to say why, even though I know we all know. Like it just makes it hit different because you remember.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
And
like
it's
how they
nice that
did
they
it,
actually
too.
like resolved it before that even gets revealed.
Yeah.
Like
And the
you know,
way that
things
they
that they're
did it-
changing, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. The way that they're doing it so that the audience who hasn't read the books can understand it. So the way that they did it without the confrontation fits with how they kind of judge the storyline, because we know that in the episodes coming, like there's some things that happen that it doesn't exactly happen in the books that way. So they just, something we have to accept is that they just did it for the people.
Oh, yeah.
I think the fact that they include Mal writing in these previous episodes and show that like he's writing Alina letters makes it make sense. Whereas if they had done everything exactly the same way in the books, I don't think anybody would like Mal.
Right.
Still, no matter how many shirtless, dirty scenes he's in, it would still be like, yeah, but this guy like totally forgot about her. And instead, like the entire time we see Mal, it is all about getting back to Alina. Every single episode, every single waking minute is like, I just want to be with Alina. And I'm like,
so
bro.
Yeah, literally, like, there's
Sure.
Sorry.
What?
I was gonna say, when he takes on the mission to go hunt the stag, and like they're doing the whole meeting that they have, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're just wasting our time. They want to send us off on a mission to freeze to death for a
And
miss." He's like, "Nope, I'm
He's
gonna
like,
do it."
I'll go get my girl.
Hey, I'll do it.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I don't even like
Everything he
Melina, but
does
I
is
love that.
calculated to get back to her because he's like, oh, she must not be able to see me. Okay, what if I did this? What if I did that? Like he's thinking
Yeah.
of every single avenue to get back to her.
Yeah. Which is great, because I was gonna say the first time I read Shadow and Bone, like I didn't have the letters because I read it when it like first came out, 20,000 years ago, and so I didn't have the letters. So the whole time I was like, Mal is a boo boo. Like, why is he so selfish and annoying?
This though, Alina, and he
Like,
says, when I
the
said
letters
True
were
North, I hope you know I was talking about you. And it's like, oh.
yeah, when they call each other that.
These
it's
the
so
letters we're
cute.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those letters.
I didn't
I
read it. I can't lie to you.
No, I didn't read it either. I saw those. I was like, "Oh,
I
Mal."
haven't read
Well,
them
I
yet.
said-
I don't have them in my edition. Oh,
Y'all, there's
I
like
regret
2 pages in that letter that literally just make me start to sob. Like, you should read the
I have to
letter.
read
It's
them.
really good.
I'm going to now that you've talked about them, but
Yeah,
before
I'm gonna-
I don't
me
care about
too.
him, so I'm not going to. So I'm glad I know now.
I firmly believe that if the Shadow and Bone trilogy had not been from a first-person perspective, Mal would not have any hate. Like if we got to see
That's
Mal
probably true.
any other
Yeah.
lens, he would be the most book boyfriend that has ever existed.
Yeah.
That's because it's like he's so obviously. I mean, like I usually will say like, "Oh, this person's simping," but he is just like a lovable, like teddy bear, excellent boyfriend. Okay, I don't know what the word is. He's just
Rachel.
he's
You
literally
can say
perfect. He's literally perfect.
What I don't understand is that I've only read the first book, and I genuinely cannot understand why people don't like Mal. Like I've only read the first one.
He
so
gets
maybe-
worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
he gets
Okay,
worse
I feel
from
like he
Alina's
does stuff in
perspective.
book 2 that I didn't really love. So
But
like
see,
adding
it's
on.
worse and then he gets better.
He gets
Yeah.
worse.
Oh yeah. Root and Rising is his best self.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? I had a really wrong impression before going into the books, because having not known much about the trilogy, I thought it would be more of like a love triangle in like equal sides. But like in Siege of Storm, they're basically in like an established relationship for most of the book. Like kind of, and it was just I had no idea that was going to happen. So when I don't remember quite well what happens in Siege of Storm, but I remember that there was like this really like miscommunication thingy by the end of the book, and I was just like, you guys are basically in a relationship already, just solve it, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there was a definite like miscommunication thing in terms of like Alina was dealing with some stuff that Mal didn't know about in Siege and Storm, because I like just finished it, so I remember what happened. But like she was dealing with stuff Mal didn't understand, and she just didn't feel like she could tell him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, oh, I just don't feel like telling him, but it was for like a valid enough reason that I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So then when Mal behaved the way he did, I was like, I don't like that.
You have to realize they're young too. So like,
yeah,
they're
like I know
17.
they're young, so I'm like,
yeah, like they're not gonna come out and be like, hey, this is really upsetting me, and like, can we talk about it?
They didn't have the
way?
adult
like,
communication
yeah,
that we all have.
We need.
So like even adults don't talk like that sometimes. So it's just kind of like, of course they're not gonna, especially if they feel like they've been gypped or like hurt. They're like, oh no, I'm good. We don't have to talk about it.
I also feel bad for Mal because all Mal wants is to not be on a save the world quest, and yet he wants to save the world quest. Like, no offense to like anyone who's a Mal hater, but like, let's be real. If I was sucked on a save the world quest that I don't want to be on, I would complain too.
He was the most unwilling participant ever.
I liked that he was like very realistic. He was like, we just can't be together at some point. Like at some point, you're just like, we just can't be together because you clearly want to do this thing, and I just don't want to do it. I just want us to be us. And so like, I like that he was realistic and he's very valid in his complaints, but he was also just very whiny, and I needed him to sit in the corner.
But it's the difference between like being like
he was whiny, but also I would do the exact same thing if the person I was dating was the sun summoner, and I was like, "Are you kidding? I just want to go home." Like,
I feel like
Shadow and Bone is on tonight. I can't believe you have to go be the sun summoner over there. I want to go home and watch Shadow and Bone.
But it's like essential to his arc, though.
Yeah. And I feel like it's heartbreaking when he tells Alina, not I don't want to be here, but I can't give you what you need right now. And it's like, I can't give you, like, you're in this big adventure quest and I can't give you all of that. And he's just like, all I can give you is a stag. All I can give you is like the sea monster thingy. You know, like that's all I can help you with. So I'm going to stay on this quest that I am not interested in for you because I can't give you anything else right now. And I'm just like,
Yeah, what I think is interesting is there's also like a lot of criticism of Alina when she like first refuses to wear the Darkling's black, like when she wants to just stay in the blue kefta. But like from the beginning, Alina is really just trying to find like a place to fit in. Like she definitely is just looking for a place of belonging. And so her putting like if she were to wear the black kefta, that would like immediately separate her from the rest of the Grisha in the little palace. And so I think that whenever people like criticize her choice of choosing to stay in blue and not go into the black, like there's definitely a misunderstanding of Alina with that, because Alina just wants to have friends.
She's so desperate
that
for
aren't
friendship,
just Mal.
so
I'm glad you brought this up, Catherine, because this is my biggest issue with the show is actually that, did they change this or am I going crazy? That when there's a point when Alina decides she wants to wear the black, and I feel like in the book, but don't, like, if I'm completely wrong, correct me, she never has that moment.
But doesn't she wear blue in the show?
She does wear the black once, I remember, but she says she hates it and immediately goes back to blue the next day. And so
they make her,
right,
they make her wear the black for the demonstration.
But then she's like, I hate it. I want to put the blue back on so I can be with all my friends. And so that's the issue in the whole show, because I totally get what they're going for with Alina wanting to choose her own, like, her own journey, you know, and have her sort of fall into the Darkling's trap, less of him like pulling her directly, but also it's like completely different than book Alina, who just wants to have friends and all these things. And like I felt like that was the biggest change that I didn't like. Like,
but wait, what color does she wear in the show? Wait, I'm confused now.
It's the same thing. Like, she's wearing the same colors, but it's just a difference that, like, I think it's episode 5 when they're getting her ready for the ceremony thing. And before, she wore the blue one, like the blue outfit, which is the same as all the other Grisha. And then I think that they say, like, oh, if you want, we'll switch it to this thing because we know you didn't want to wear black last time. And she's like, oh, actually, I do want to wear black to the
And then-
ceremony.
Oh.
Like, so she decides I want to wear black, and then she doesn't like change her mind after that. Whereas in the books, I think that one time she was just given black robes because she was supposed to be like with the Darkling, basically. So she wore that, and then the next day she was like, "Can I have blue robes? Because I really don't want to wear black."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
and
they just took that moment out.
I felt like for
Oh.
like, at least for me as a consumer of this story, in terms of me like being like interpreting Alina's character, I felt like her wanting to go back to blue fits so much more with who she is at her core than her being like, I'm gonna wear black forever now, which is quite literally in different words what she says to Jenya before the demonstration. So like that to me is just like every time I think about that one moment, I'm like, it irks me. Just like
I feel like maybe it works in the book because it's one of those things that you read into and you're like, oh, because she still has ties to like other Grisha and she's finally accepted like, oh, I am a Grisha even if I just found out, but I want to be like on level field with these other people. I don't want to be this like really fancy sun summoner. I don't even know what that means. No one does because I'm the only one of them. But I don't want to be just separated from the crowd the way the Darkling is. I want to be kind of like everybody else. I want to return to as close down to my roots as I can. But I think it's just like she's done a lot of that internal struggle like on screen a lot up till that point that they probably maybe thought it was like overkill to be like, all right, let's have her go back to the blue and let's do this, when they were like, also by the way, we have to reveal the whole thing with Bagra this episode. What do you guys think? Like, so I don't know, maybe they just sort of took that moment out because it was just a lot of struggle anyway.
The other thing about it too is it feels like it concludes a little bit of her like I feel like her overarching arc of the whole trilogy is her coming into her power of the whole thing. So I feel like by her accepting a higher position almost of like donning a black kefta in so early in the show, I feel like it almost sets her up for like it sets up her accepting her power much earlier than I think personally that she should. Like for me, that's like she should start, but I feel like that's such a big step that happened too early. At least personally.
I think it's almost like fake it till you make it. Like she just had to be the sun summoner now. So it's like they were like, hey, tomorrow's the ceremony where you have to go show everybody that you're really good at this thing. So are you gonna be ready? And she's just like, well, I've been slapped 1 trillion times by Bagra, so I hope so. And like finally
Not
like
proper training at all.
okay, I can do this thing.
I felt the same way about her declining the gloves because she also accepted those in the book. So she accepted the help in the book. And then when she declined it, I was confused.
Yeah,
See,
I was also confused.
because-
Yeah.
with the glove thing, because like in the books the gloves aren't exactly a way to like amplify her power. It's more of a way, like a tool.
Yeah.
Like it has like mirrors on it so she can reflect light in a more like
Direct.
direct way. Yeah.
Actually laser it over. And so like that frustrated me too. I was like, also because like this man just made her gloves
Yes.
for days
And was like, I don't think I'll need it. And he's like,
Yeah, he was just like, oh, I guess
don't be
we'll
rude
come
to
back then.
David. Come on now.
That was so rude
I
of
feel
her.
like
That
I
was
also
the start
sort
of her
of-
corrupt path.
I also sort of missed how like the significance of the gloves in the show, just like by itself, forgetting the books for a second. I feel like because we saw in like the first episode, somebody like snapped their fingers, fire came out, and they flung it at a mannequin, and then they were like, all right, go again. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's kind of like Full Metal Alchemist cool. Okay. But then I don't really remember seeing that many people with gloves using them as amplifiers or anything. So when David brought stuff, I was like, what is that? I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. And then they were like, oh, it's gloves to amplify. And I was like, is that a thing? And then she said, I don't think I'll be needing them. And I was like, I guess this wasn't important. Like, I just don't.
I think what they were trying to do in the show, and I think it's something Bagra says at the end of episode 5, was the gloves were going to be get her reliant. We're going to be a way to make her reliant on the Darkling and kind of tamping down her power while making it seem like he's trying to help her. which is a lot of what the Darkling is
But
doing.
how does that
is
even
like
work?
Because she
well,
thinks
because
can't
she
do these
becomes
things.
reliant.
She's
Yeah.
relying on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
I was
honest. I was
literally
dumb. I
gonna
did
say
not
that's
catch on to
exactly
that
why
until
she
you
has
just
the
said it.
catch
Neither
up.
did I.
Yeah, I heard them say that, but then I was just kind of like, does that even make sense? Because she doesn't even use the gloves. Like, as far as I know, this is the first time she's seen gloves, and it gets to use them, so it's not even like it worked. Like, I guess that was the plan to get her reliant on the gloves, but she was just like, I literally don't need these. I'm stronger than you. So
Well,
like,
I think
okay,
that
good for
the
you.
Darkling, because later in the episode, the Darkling is like, "Oh, I heard you didn't need the gloves. I heard you were
Yeah.
able to split the light on your own." And she's like, "Yeah, I was able to do that." And I think that that's kind of a moment where the Darkling is starting to realize she's coming into her power more than he thought she would.
Not just, but she's
Yeah.
also much more of a threat than he was anticipating.
Yes,
I think
that's
he
true.
wanted her to be much easier to.
Oh my God. I agree with you, Taylor. I also wanted that recognition for him.
Because the Darkling groomed so many girls from young ages that I think he forgets that Alina is older and like
Mhm.
so harder to groom. Therefore, so I think he's
Strong word
realizing
choice, but yes.
that she's much
Yeah.
more threat.
I mean, I think she definitely has more of like a survival background given the sort of childhood that she had growing up. So it's sort of like you got to fend for yourself. So while she is now put in this situation, I'm assuming that a lot of the other young girls that the Darkling has like lied to throughout the years didn't come from the exact same standing, because people always seem surprised when they're like, oh, she's an orphan or whatever. So like, I would just think that given the sort of background that other girls might have, then if some like really handsome guy played by Ben Barnes starts being really nice to you, you'd be like, oh my God, I'll do anything for you, because who here would not? Okay. But for Alina, it's just sort of like, oh, I mean, like, number one, I mean, I guess, because they kissed in this episode, but she kind of already has this guy that I assume she has already realized she is in love with back home. And also she just has this survival instinct of like, I guess this is where I am now, but I don't really belong here. I want to be back with Mal. I want to like do what I have to do to protect people, but also I'm not thinking like, how do I get this Darkling man to like me? It's just sort of like, I'm really uncomfortable and I'm here. So she's like starting from a completely different standpoint than everybody else, from my assumption, would be, because she's not from like this palace area of all this like aristocratic nature, you know?
Yeah. You can see that too with how Zoya acts in the show.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
everyone
who
who's
Zoya
there.
is.
Yeah, everyone who's there wants to move up in some way and wants to be in like high favor, but Alina doesn't care about that at all. So yeah, that's a really good,
That's so true. Yeah.
great
Yeah.
observations. Okay, we've already touched on a lot of the stuff that happens in episode 5, so the recap isn't really necessary. But I will say, like,
Episode 5 also had the carnival, I think.
Yeah.
yeah. So Alina goes out.
Scene
Yeah, that was a fun time.
with
It's like, this is
the
awkward. I love that.
with the Sun Summoner play. I thought that was really fun foreshadowing too, for like the future.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like I thought it was fun.
Well, I also thought it was great because that's the moment that Jesper sees Alina and is like, oh shit. Because after that, Kaz has already seen that like secret room and they've seen a person in there. So I was under the assumption of like, oh my God,
They
they
were gonna
think that that's
kidnap
Alina,
the
so they're going to
person,
kidnap
yeah.
her. Right? So
I
then
also
that's
thought that
like,
would happen.
that's the impression that you have. But then when he's like, no, she's half shoe or she's part shoe, whatever it was that he said, then it's like, okay, so now we know that that's not who it is. But I think it's this episode is when he's like, we already know that there's a double. So it was like he put 2 and 2 together. We didn't even see that happen, but that just kind of proves that sort of like mastermind ability that Kaz has, rather than just being like, oh, let me lay it out all on display. Like a true mastermind is sort of like, I don't need to tell you anything you don't need to know. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know when you need to know. That's it. And he literally played that guy, and I was like, wow, I did not see that coming whatsoever. Like, oh
That's
my God.
big Kaz energy. Like Kaz does it all the time. I was happy when that happened.
That was great. That was so
Yeah,
good.
because
Well
I
done.
think that was a very like Kazbrecker move, was him, because he knew that something was up with the conductor because he saw him go into the tent with that guy from Westrovka.
Yeah.
And so then when I'm sure when he saw the two different keftas in there, he like knew what was up. And so him not revealing the full plan to the conductor was such a like Kazbrecker move, because like he never reveals his like full plan to everyone.
To anyone.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah,
he
gives someone a little bit.
and as you get a little piece as a treat.
Yeah.
That's
never-
really
I'm gonna ask something. Like the big fighting scenes with the Grisha is after episode 5, right? Or is it still in episode 5?
The
Because after the whole thing goes
after.
down.
is in episode 6.
Episode 6.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But there are some good fight scenes in here too. Because
I was
Mal
just
has to
confused.
fight one of the soldiers.
Genya, when
Oh my God.
Genya like totally wrecks that girl or that guy who's about to who kills Marie. I was like, this is
R.I.P. Marie.
life.
I know.
I was so shocked when that happened, because like I wasn't understanding anything, and I was just like, we saw Alina on the phone. I was like, wait, what?
I was
But she was
confused.
just like
Yeah, 'cause
exactly
then-
right there.
I thought
And
because
then
like
the face
Genya could
started
heal
changing, I was
people.
like-
Yeah,
She
because
can't heal
like she
people.
said, Genya could heal. Well,
No, she's a
because
tailor.
she
She's
healed like
not a
her.
healer.
Okay, first of all, sorry, this is so off topic, but do you remember when Alina was like, "Genya, I need you to do something for me, fix it," and she like takes the scar.
I hated
Oh my
that.
god, I hated that.
That was horrible.
And then
I
when
was
she's
so
with him
sad.
again, she's just like, damn, I really missed that. And I'm like,
That happened in the book.
no.
No.
In the book,
Okay,
she
'cause I
always
was
has
thinking
it.
it was
She's
weird.
But then
like,
I think
she
maybe this is
specifically
the
says,
episode when
"Don't
we
take this
find out
one out."
how she got the scar, which was literally them like holding on to something in pain during the testing, so she
Yeah.
wouldn't be
Because you know
revealed
what?
as Grisha, purely because she wanted to stay with Mal because he was hurt, and she knew that he got picked on all the time, and she was like, I don't care, I just want to stay with him, even if I am
so
Grisha.
mad about the scar because that doesn't like come back in the future books and stuff too. I don't remember.
I mean,
know.
she just
I don't
like
think. I mean, she
always-
uses
I think
it
that's
as like
just
a
how she
comfort
explains to
thing.
Mal why she stayed, because she's like, I didn't do this because like I thought I was Grisha. I did this because I wanted to stay with you. You know, like
Yeah.
regardless of who I am.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I
think
feel
that's
like
why
it's just an
important.
important thing for her, and like something that she looked back into in the further into the books, and she was just like always look at that and would know that that was the one scar that would stay.
Yeah.
And I hate that they took that away in the show.
I feel like that's also like such a valuable thing, and it's so Alina, because when you're in Alina's position where it's sort of like she shows up at the little palace and they're like, okay, go. And she's like, what about all my stuff? It's at the camp or whatever. And they're like, yeah, you don't need any of that stuff. You're at the little palace now. So she has like nothing to call her own. So when the only thing you have to call your own is your own body, then to have like a scar that reminds you of something back home that is just something of comfort.
Especially after they've changed all of the others and taken out all
Right,
the
so
other
they've
scars
taken
and
everything
just,
away
like,
where it's like, oh, you got hurt, oh, you got dirty on the ride over, and she's like, nope, not this one. Not this one.
Yeah.
This one reminds me of home. And you're
and
like,
I was so
oh.
happy when that happened, when she said no to that, and I was like, okay, this car's gonna stay. And then it happens in
Yeah,
that.
but then
when
I was like,
It takes away the meaning when you just completely. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was the
It's
point.
just-
Did
it's
it
very
hurt?
sad.
I mean, I think the reason she did it was because she truly believed that Mal had like given up on her
Forgotten.
and wasn't.
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
there was always
They're
like this
just so
little hope
hasty.
in the books, and like always like this memory and like this attachment to Mal, even though that she thought and was like super convinced that he had forgotten her. And I was just,
It's a very
I-
angsty teen thing to do, though, so I totally understand.
It's so
Because, like, if it was
impulsive,
me
really
and it was
just
like,
so
fix
impulsive.
it, like, I would totally do that too.
In
If
terms of, like,
a man
imagery-
forgot me.
Same.
In terms of like subtle layer imagery that will translate to audience members, her removing that scar, as much as I hated it personally, for storytelling reasons, it was really effective. Because it
Yeah.
showed she had given up on Mal, essentially. And that was,
Yeah,
I
you
think,
have to
literally
give-
the when she starts making moves on the dark lake. So, like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
very much, it's like a very interesting visual moment. So I get why they did it. I don't like it.
It
for
just
personal-
hurts. It just
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have to keep
That's why I
remembering
like
that they're
it, 'cause I
doing
like
it
to be
for a show and for like audience members who haven't watched or read the books, but I still hate it just because it does feel very spiteful. It doesn't feel like she's doing it for her. It feels like she's doing it because she's
Especially because
think
the
she
whole thing with the
absolutely is,
Darkling
yeah.
doesn't last, and it's like it's
Yeah. It's
the
too fast.
betrayal, like the
But it's
betrayal
so
comes so
teen.
fast after
It's
that
so teen.
that it's like
so
they didn't even
mellow.
have time to build up on that. It's like she takes out the scar. She's like, "Oh, I'm happy with Darkling," and then it's like, bam, betrayal. She's like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Now I like,
Like a reverse tattoo you instantly regret, but you don't have the visual representation of the tattoo, so it's
yeah.
yeah.
I actually think it's
But
shorter
to-
in the book from their first kiss as Darkling and Alina's first kiss to the betrayal is like literally like 20 pages. Like it's short.
It's not long.
So like I think they did a good job with that pacing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But to cut back to the whole thing with like Jenya and Marie, I thought that they literally killed, like they tried to kill Alina, and I thought she was going to heal her because I was like,
Yeah,
oh, she
I
heals
thought that too.
scars. So I was like, she'll be fine. But then she was like, Marie, it's okay. And I was like, so heal her. And she was just like, I don't want to die with the wrong face on. And I was like, so she's going to take her makeup off? This doesn't seem like the time. And then it was Marie, and I was like, okay.
Did anyone actually see that coming?
No,
Because
I
was
was
just
not.
as surprised as Rachel. Like, did everybody else see that coming? Because I
No.
really didn't.
Watching it the
Okay.
second time, it's definitely way more obvious, and I was paying
Yeah.
obviously attention. But watching it the first time, I
I
was
was
like,
so
"Oh, wait,
confused
did they really
the
just?"
first time.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
Lena
I
was
am
so
not.
happy
I
at the
thought she was just
carnival, and
gonna
I'm
kill
like, yeah, you go, girl. And then,
Yeah.
like that on the phone, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Screams.
Yeah, because when you watched it the second time and they like go, oh, Marie, you have to go get the
Yeah.
kefta and get that ready. And there were like a couple other things that they said. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, the first time I was
was
like,
in the dark.
what
was
just
I
happened?
was like, "Bold move! They just really slipped her throat
Yeah.
on."
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact she just got in there and just was like, and I was like, there's nobody here. There's no security. Hello? Like,
There's no
oh my God.
security. Security.
And didn't Marie
Where's the
have
panic button?
a romance in season?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that they didn't do that. I like that they changed her death.
Oh, I love her and Sergey.
I didn't care for
It'll be
them.
interesting because
I
that
mean-
does come into play in Rune and Rising. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who
Right.
hasn't read the rest of the books. It does come into play in Rune and Rising. So I'm interested to see how.
Catherine, what if they make that Fedor and Ivan? What if they switch it?
But they
I
just
will literally
Okay, I was thinking that.
just
I hope they
fall
do.
into a puddle.
Okay, because weren't they feeding, like one of them was feeding, I
Yes.
think Fedor was feeding Ivan like the little
Yeah,
pink
boyfriend.
macaron.
Yes, because I asked Monique, I was like, did that happen in the book? I never picked up on that. But
They
No, they're fully
No, 'cause
married. Like, in
you're-
this, they're like,
What's his name? What's his name? Fear.
Fedor.
Fedor?
Fedor. He
Fedor?
like you see him in the carriage when they arrive at the Little Palace, and then you don't see him again until you see him briefly with Mal, actually. Because he was one of the Grisha who accompanied. There was actually a bigger party looking for the stags, and so he had like accompanied Mal to go look for the stag. He was one of the Grisha on that mission.
Yeah.
So you see him like briefly with Mal, and then you see him again in Siege and Storm.
but he
So,
has a bigger role here, I think, right?
yeah, he has a much bigger role.
Bigger character.
Yeah, he's in a lot of scenes.
Yeah, he's hanging out with the
Mhm.
Darkling all the time where he's like, oh, and I'll bring Ivan. And the Darkling's like, oh no, Ivan has to stay with me. And he's just
Oh my
like,
god, that was
"Okay."
so cute when he was trying to like get his boyfriend to come on.
I was rewatching the first two episodes last night for self-care, and and there's that part where they're in the same carriage as Alina, and like Fedor gives him like a little nudge, like, "Are you gonna introduce me?" My heart render.
He's
like
so cute.
moment.
They're so
I love it.
adorable.
Grumpy one, sunshine one.
But I feel like my favorite moment was for sure that one with the Darkling when he's like, "Oh damn, like a mission, oh, time for a honeymoon," and he's like, "Can I bring Ivan?" And he's like, "No." Ivan has to say, and he's just like,
I ship it hard.
I keep seeing fan art of them like on my explore page. I'm like, I'm glad that we're all just like the only thing that matters.
it was
is
such
no
a cute detail to add. It was just so cute.
husbands.
Heartrender husbands.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with episode 5 before we can go into episode 6 if we choose to, because I think we covered a lot in episode 5. But Alina literally just gets right in the trunk of the carriage.
I love that.
I love that scene.
That was really
It's
good.
so good. I just love Jesper's reaction to that of being like, it can't be this easy. It can't.
And I love like the rest of them. They're like, "We don't even know where she is," and he's like,
They're like, we lost the
He's
lead
like,
on the target.
"Shut
And he's
up."
like,
"I know."
ask me.
Just
Ask me
ask.
where she is.
what's so important about that scene is a story writing and like a show perspective. If we had actually seen the three of them like physically kidnap her, I think there would have been some resistance to liking the show, liking the crows. Like
I like that that their plan just didn't work and they had to go another way. I like
and
that.
it's such a crow thing. The crows are knowing their plans failing and then having to figure it out.
Like literally.
Literally every single one of their plans is like, we have this amazing like plan, we have it all worked out, it's going to be perfect, and then it just completely falls apart, but somehow it works out.
But in a cool way, kind of.
Yeah,
like even in the first time with the blueprint where like Inej couldn't get out, then you could see Jesper had to wait a second and he shot the door open and she just like left that fast. But
I loved when Inej is like behind the guy and is like doing
just like quietly, and I was like, I could never do that.
That
just
was the definition of like her.
With her silence, like her quietness on screen is so much cooler than I could have ever imagined.
How do you pronounce like her nickname? I never.
The Wraith.
Wraith. Okay.
Yeah. The W does not exist.
Do you know when I first read the 2 books, I genuinely thought she was Grisha, like the whole time. I finished the whole series. And
if she had been Grisha, that would have been incredible.
Because
what kind? What if Inej was?
It would have been like a squalor.
I didn't think it through. I didn't.
Oh, she could be a squalor would have been interesting because you can like squalors can make sound kind of dampen down and stuff.
And I feel like it would have been good for her balance too.
Yeah, good for her balance, and she could like be lighter on her feet because she can just kind of control. She could literally step on the air if she wanted to, basically.
What did you guys think of the fact that they changed her from being a tightrope walker to like a high wire walker to the silks kind of acrobat?
I think they've changed that. I think they've just given her a skill.
I feel like she just has to adapt for that one thing. I don't feel like it's going to be like her power.
Just because when she was practicing, she was like, I haven't done this routine since I was 14. So
I think that might have been the things where I think she maybe like when she was a kid, she was trained to do all of it, you know? And then she
I feel like it would have been a weird thing to change.
High wire.
Yeah.
I think it's just like aesthetics. Like I think if they change it at all, then it's just because the silk is like prettier to look at.
Yeah.
And for her to just like walk on a tightrope and be like, I did it, and everyone's like, yay.
Maybe it was
be
easier
like,
for Anita to train. Maybe it was also easier for her.
And I don't know if it would have been too mixed, but because Inej's whole thing is her climbing, so I guess she can still do
like I think
climbing.
it makes sense with that talent because like we saw her break in to do the heist for the blueprint, and it was just like, oh no problem, she's gonna go in through a rope, like don't even worry about it. So you already know she's very like acrobatically like talented. So her also doing all this stuff, I was like, oh, this does make sense over Cass doing it.
Yeah,
like, just because I don't have a brain. But yes.
With his leg doing the silk, his cane in one hand and his climbing in the other.
I didn't know if they were just gonna be like just do a totally different talent or if it was like just fully take on the silk. So I was like,
I would love to see it. I want to say one more thing because Taylor brought up that Inej killed for Kaz, and
But was that in episode 5? That was the scene that I was talking about.
I think it was the end of 5.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like that was the most on-brand Kaz. Like when he, like the seriousness in his face when he tells the Inferni like you need both hands to do that. I only need one leg or something like that. I was just like.
I was a little scared. I was like,
and he just like crushed his hand. I was like, Freddie Carter, what did you just do?
But
it was very book
before that. Hold on, what? 2 seconds before that, the guy had said, "I know you're in here, limping man," and I'm like,
I was like, okay, just like the same. This is the same brand of like stupid insults as rice eater, where it was like, oh, rice eater, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was an exclusively shoe thing. You guys don't have rice here, like
everyone eats rice. I don't get it.
What I love about
you're missing out.
What I love about Inej's first kill too is that it takes place in a church, and so when Kaz like something about saints never watching over me, Inej is literally watching over him in a church like a saint would. And
And
like
it's literally just
I
like
did not
her
get that.
betraying everything about herself, like her religious love and her not killing, but like she saw him in danger and she was just like, I have to do this. I have to go against everything that I believe in to do this.
I kind
And
of feel like it was like a gut reaction. Like I don't even think she thought about it. It was just like, oh, Kaz is in danger. I got to do something, and like her
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
just like flung it. And then it's
Yeah.
also like the moment after that where she's like, I killed him.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
but I
killed
like
him.
that she
didn't
doesn't
think
regret it,
that.
you know? I like that she
Yeah.
doesn't
And-
regret it because
for the Inej we see in Six of Crows, when I like she when in the very beginning when she even thinks about killing people, it's not something she's comfortable with. So
Right.
to
Yeah.
see the way that it's like her first kill until there, like that, it's just a really interesting thing to see how she starts to rationalize murder and like how she
Mhm.
goes about it and like what extremes she's willing to kill people for. Like it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
it was such a cool kill too.
She
It
does
was
start
so
to
cool.
think of the like
Sorry.
it's us or them type mentality of like, I have to do it because if I don't, then it's going to be us that ends up getting killed. I also love the moment afterwards, and it's something that book people will pick up on that other people won't realize until probably next season or even the season after that, is Kaz comforting Inej but not touching her.
Mhm.
And you
okay,
can
point.
see him like kind of move towards her, but he can't touch her.
Yeah.
The
So-
other thing
And
that
I
he has too in the subtleness is, did anyone else pick up that his limp gets worse each episode?
Yeah, and he's rubbing his leg and
Mhm.
yeah.
I ate that up.
Mhm.
Well, also because when he had to be in the guard uniform, he couldn't carry his cane. So like when
Yeah.
he stopped, he had to like stand in the hallway like
Catch his breath
and like
and,
pant for a while and like catch his breath, and then he could get back to doing what he had to do.
That was
So it's just sort of
really-
makes sense.
It was a really good choice too, because it officially, like, by having his leg even just get progressively worse episode by episode, and like it shows that it's a real disability and like a real issue. It's like a real thing for him. It's not just like
It's not like a dress up thing.
Here it
Yeah,
is.
Right.
exactly.
and I think that's really good storytelling.
Mhm.
And I just want to say, like, this is in episode 6, but Inej gets hurt in episode 6, and you can really see Kaz's concern, and
Woo.
like he's in so much pain. Like it's very subtly on his
yes.
face when he sees her stabbed, and he doesn't want to touch her because he doesn't touch people, but he looks so like in agony because he can't like
He
go to her the
was-
way he
yeah,
wants
yeah, I saw
to.
that.
There
Yeah,
was
the
a
thing where
tweet
he
with that
literally
and, like
like
a gif, and I was just
Mhm.
like looking at it on repeat, and I was just like, oh my god, that's his face. Like, look. At it.
yeah.
And even
Yeah, the
better,
thing where he literally just has to leave because he's like, I can't do anything
can't do
else
it,
right
yeah.
now. Yeah.
And he just, I
So
feel like he's just so
helpful.
disappointed in himself too. You know, like,
Mhm.
like.
But
Yeah.
Freddie can act. Freddie's doing it.
I especially love that Jesper was there while she was stitching herself up and just like
The entire time.
And
just-
also not helping at all. Like, just
I
not
love that
helping at all.
scene.
I love it. Establishes Inej as being like the best of all of them. She's
He
like,
is
I'm
President
sewing
Badass.
myself up, and Jesper is like, nope, I can't. Not the blood.
But the moment was also so sad when she's like, "Where did you learn to do it?" And she's like, "At the menagerie." And he was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I didn't understand that.
This
What
is
does
not
that
in episode 6, by the way, guys. We moved
Oh.
ahead, but
oh my god!"
That's
I
not in
thought-
episode 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember that happening.
mean? No,
It's
I
not-
remember. I just didn't understand it. What does that mean?
I feel like because she was like abused at the menagerie,
Yeah,
and
she
like injured a lot,
beat up,
so
basically.
she had to learn how to stitch herself up.
Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
my god!
It's like
And
I love
when
little
Jesper just,
Jesper and Inej moments because they had so many little moments, but they're just
Yeah.
they're so fun together.
and Inej's best friend writes, and I've been saying it forever, and they said you can have it. You can have it.
I just love their dynamic in the show. It was just so good.
Perfect. Well
Mhm.
done. Well done.
Okay, so with episode 6, since we've subtly moved into that one, we have
Oh wait,
Alina's
last thing I just
away.
wanted to add.
go
Last
ahead.
thing I just wanted to add was just also when Inej sees that Alina is the sun summoner, and then she just has that little like moment
gonna
where
talk
she
about
just
that, though.
pledges.
yeah.
Okay, but the hilarious thing after that, they did Inej dirty though, because she goes like, Santa Alina, and then Jesper's having an orgasm, like, and after that, 2 seconds later, and he's like, saints, and I'm like, oh my god, like,
But I love that moment with Neж. Like, there's just so much emotion in her face when she's like, Sancta Alina. Like, there was just so much emotion. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a really good scene. And I was just like, oh, they really just disrespected her by throwing that in right after that.
trying
Yeah,
to show
that's
everybody
expression of
believes that.
scenes.
That's so
It kind of sucks.
But yeah, they did a really good job. And those little details and the acting, they really embodied like Inej's faith and her passion. I just love it so much. Oh, Stephanie tearing up at Inej having a moment.
I
Yeah.
love all the Inej and Alina moments. I know I'm not going to talk like specifics about like further episodes. Like, I just loved every single moment they were together, every single moment that Inej was looking at her. I was just eating that up. I loved it.
So let's talk about the beginning
excited.
of episode 6 because they let Alina go, and I was actually kind of annoyed about that, even though I understand
They
it.
didn't let her go. I feel like they just couldn't do anything. She was just like showing her powers, and they were like,
I'll kill you.
"No,
And
that's."
they were like, goodbye.
But would
But
she?
Inej was like, kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Inej let
letting
her
you
go.
Like,
If there was
sorry,
anyone who
yeah.
could stop her, it would have been Inej.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the other two got blinded was the reason why they let
Oh,
her
I thought
go.
they all just flinched.
Right.
I thought they all just flinched
Well,
because they thought she was angry.
No, she let
I was-
out a thing of
I
light,
think
and
she,
you
like,
see
actually, like-
Inej's hand go like this, so she covers up her eyes. The other two get blinded, and so
two
that's
got-
why later in the episode, when Inej and Kaz have that kind of confrontation,
Then they're like, you let her go, and she's like, oh, but she's the sun
Sorry.
summoner.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally just thought they all got a little spooked. I didn't realize they were blinded. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
I feel like they didn't want to hurt her, though. You know,
And
like,
I
feel like
respect that. I don't want them to hurt her.
They could have,
Mhm.
but I feel like they didn't want to.
Also, just while we're right here, I thought it was so cool also to just see like a different use of Alina's powers, for her to like be stuck in the thing and to like use it as a way to like burn out the lock.
Yeah.
Where
that
she's
was cool.
in the little trunk, and she just uses her light like the sun through a magnifying glass and just burns a hole in the. I was like,
Yeah,
I
I
love
wouldn't
Jeez,
say.
love
I
her.
love that they were just standing there watching her the whole time while she was doing it.
Yeah,
Because then she gets out and they're just like, hey,
Yeah.
like I have a gun.
Oh.
Like, what's
I
up?
love them.
but I do think they do a lot more with her power in this because I've been so confused about her power even after reading the books, just because like sometimes it emits heat, sometimes it doesn't. When she was showing it off in the ballroom, no one's getting blinded by it, but obviously the crows get blinded by it in the scene we're talking about. And so I'm just like, and then she burns that guy, that one soldier, who tries to like.
On the head,
All I
yeah.
think is that Alina gets to essentially choose when it's warm or when it's not, or when it blinds or when it doesn't. She has a lot
Yeah, I
of
think it's like intention.
yeah, it has
Yeah.
a lot of potential. So like if she needs it as defense, she can use it to blind, and if she
Yeah.
needs it to get out of something, it becomes warm. So it's very much dependent on her needs, and it's not one size fits all. Like
And I
her-
like
I
that.
think it's similar to like if you look at things like a squalor, they can do like a direct push of air, or they can do a more general breeze. So I think it's similar with hers, where she can do the more general big sunlight burst, or she can do a more direct pinpoint sun. I mean, similar to, who was that, Rachel, that said it was like a magnifying glass,
Mhm.
where you can like pinpoint it, and like you can pinpoint the sun onto a leaf and burn it with a magnifying glass. So I think it's something similar to that, where she's just directing it to more of a point of light, and that's what burns, and that's what
I think the
brings
fact that it's
the
like
heat.
light and heat, and they're two different things that kind of like fall into the same category, and she's the only person that can control it, makes sense to me. If it was like, oh, and I can make it cold, and I can do this, and I can do that, then I would be like, so it's just magic. It's just whatever she wants. But I feel
Yeah.
like this being like, it can hurt people, or it can light up a room or something like that. Like, it's just similar enough to the same like two categories of heat and light that I can get behind it.
And I
For,
get
like,
that,
this sort of
but
things
for
to
me, it's
control.
also like, what is she doing when she's being attacked by Volcra? Like, is she just making an explosion? How does no one else get hurt? It's just very, it doesn't
I
make
feel like
sense.
the Volcar are just sensitive to light in general. I don't feel like.
But then
Yeah.
why do they come towards it? Why are they drawn to it?
Because it was
Are
stupid.
they drawn to it?
I don't know.
Sort of like
In
fire,
like,
that's
are
what
you
they
talking
say.
about episode 1 with the fire?
I mean, yeah, that's what they say. Like, we don't use
Fire
any
is
brighter
fire
lights.
too.
I
It's
feel like it
essentially
depends on the type of light, you know, like they
I think
can.
it's
symbols
this.
that are there. You know, it's less of like the fire, like moth drawn to a flame. It's it's more of like the fire uncovers there's people there, so then they can see that there's food on a boat right there.
Mhm.
opposed to it being
Yeah,
like,
but I don't feel like
"Ooh."
a lamplight is enough to keep them.
I personally don't think, that little lantern was
away.
enough, but it's fine. That's just, they had to do it for the show, But
Well, okay, so speaking of, we literally didn't talk about this in episode 5, the whole thing with Bagra being like, hey, did you know what the Volcra really are?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that part.
Because
I
I
loved all
didn't
of the
get that from the
revelation,
books.
though.
Again, like, I don't know how much of
Oh.
this
Yeah.
was just me missing
That
it.
was definitely in the
Yeah, that
book.
happened in the book.
It's in the book.
It was.
Okay, maybe I just forgot it, but because a lot was happening in that scene. But I felt like generally, like with that reveal, it was very well done. But it was also because like I knew what was coming that I was like, okay, this makes sense. I do kind of feel like if I was a regular viewer and I hadn't read the books, I'd be a little confused because while obviously like a man completely dressed in black who is shunned by everyone forever because his ancestor like created the fold, I'd be a little suspicious of. He mostly isn't like as soon as she leaves being like ha 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 ha. So I was just sort of like, oh, he's like fine. And then when Bagra is like, he's my son and he's evil, I'd be like, excuse me?
I love
What?
that Bagra's like, he's my son and I'm going to throw him under the bus right now.
Yeah.
Right.
I love her energy.
Because like when
why
she
did
did
you
that,
do
it was so good because she was just like, who do you think you're talking to? And then she like made everything go dark and I was like, oh, that was so
such a
good.
epic moment.
I do want to say though, why is Bagra so much better at darkness than the Darkling is? Because when she did it, it was like actual darkness. The only thing you could see was them illuminated by like the lantern that they had in Bagra's hand. When the Darkling does it, it's literally just it's dim.
Because your
but
mom
it's-
always can do everything better than
I
you.
mean,
It's just
Clearly.
always the
it
way,
also
you know?
has to do with the fact that we, as viewers, if we just saw an all black screen, we're like, okay, cool.
No, I don't even need it to be all black, but I'm just saying, like, whenever they do it, I'm just not impressed. The darkness that the Darkling emits is not impressive to me. He does not look like a scary villain because it's just blue. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think it's because like with the Darkling, it's all about sound effects and hand motion where he's like right, everyone's like, oh my god, it's all
That is
dark.
correct.
But the scene happens in here, so we have to be able to see it.
I wish
with
that his
Bagra, it
clap
was just like boom.
I wish that his clap was more powerful. You know?
The cut terrified me. What are you talking about?
No, the clap in itself.
The clap.
And it's like
he just like claps and it gets dark. Where it's just like,
he claps and then there's thunder.
It's like a light switch.
I wish they would have been simultaneous because literally like the thunder comes after, so like there's just,
it's
like half a
literally
second where
clap
it's
on,
like
clap off lights. It's literally just and their lights go out.
like in the books, I imagine him like actually like touching his hands and like immediately there's a boom, and I feel like there was like this delay in the show where he was like, and then there was clapping, like there was thunder, and
I get that.
I wish this was simultaneous because you do not look threatening right now.
Well,
Like just doing this, you know.
At least like they need to give a second of like clap and then like things start to fizzle, because if it's so immediate that you miss something, then
No, I'm just talking about the sound. I'm not talking about like immediate darkness, but I wish that he did this and there was this like immediate like thunder or like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it more dramatic. But no, I agree.
You guys remember so much.
wait,
I already forgot
can we-
everything.
I had to
Well, yeah,
rewatch.
speaking of that, can we,
I didn't
can we
rewatch.
go through what happened with the Volcra and the Black Heretic and the King? Because when they go to the fountain, this is when he's like, call me Alexander, and they go to the fountain. Then
Yeah.
you're like,
episode
what's the
7.
story?
Yeah, that's episode
No,
7.
no, Alina does talk about.
I haven't
Oh,
seen
but-
episode 7 yet, so it
Yeah.
can't be episode 7.
Oh.
There is a scene where Alina spills the entire story. It's so funny because Alina goes, they show the like art of the story happening, and then Ben's like, "What? You know anything about this?" And then Alina's like,
Ben.
"Everyone knows, not just so whatever." And then she's like, "Everyone knows the story, not just the Grisha." And then proceeds to tell him as if he doesn't already know the story. I just thought the writing, the dialogue in that
We
scene
love
was really good.
exposition.
We love exposition, exactly.
We love it.
But
It's
yeah,
just
they
a
do
cute-
good.
Little info dump right there. You
Mhm.
know?
That was. I mean, they had the
Well,
visuals to go with it, but yeah, info
But,
dump.
all
for
right.
sure.
We as people who already know the story, we're like, ugh, info dump, skip, for that scene.
Yeah.
But, like, if I had never seen anything Grishaverse related, I would have been like so invested in that dialogue.
I
Even if
usually like when they do that in shows and stuff. When they do the
in
little.
people are always like, I hate info dumps. I'm like, please dump info on me. I need it. I am
Please
not
help me.
smart.
I don't
No,
understand
but-
anything that's going
Yeah.
on, please.
In
I am
shows,
not
yeah.
smart. Anytime there's a fantasy book without an info dump, I literally can't tell you what's happening. So like,
We're so not the same.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I disagree.
I
just
can't
not-
do info dump.
I feel like
I
it
hate it.
depends because, like, even having read the books, I just know that half my brain isn't on when I'm listening to an audiobook. So when I'm just like, oh, I missed something, I'm like, I'll just accept that I missed something. So the fact it was in the show and they were like, this is what happened, I was like, did this get covered? Because this wasn't. Were we supposed to study this? Is this on the test? Like, I don't remember any of this stuff from the books when they were talking about how, like, the king tried to do the same thing as the Black Heretic, and that's why the fold was created. And I was like, I don't even know what the fold is until I watched this show. So, like, I couldn't visualize it. So it's really hard to tell, like, what's the history behind it as well. And then for Bagger to be like, oh, and also all the Volcra are, like, people that were turned into these, like, terrible soldiers who were just like, it all went wrong and now they're Volcra and they're stuck there. It's like,
They really
I really think it would have been cool if we saw some kind of flashback clip of them becoming Volcra, because that would have been so cool.
See, that would have been
Yeah,
cool, but the
true.
thing is, like, I like to be hurt, so I would have loved it if it was like we met a Volcra and then the Volcra was just like, stop, please don't hurt me, and you realize they were a person and you were like, like, that's what I like.
Horrific.
That reminds me, do you know of that one scene from Full Metal Alchemist, like really early on?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what that sounds
Yep.
like.
Rachel, your question was answered in the first 10 minutes of episode 7. So
Cool.
Yeah, I was
Can't wait.
just gonna say that.
I'm gonna ask you something. Wait, is the Darkling flashback in each episode?
That's
it's
7.
7.
So that's 7.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
supposed to 7.
We're gonna have so much to talk about next
Yeah,
time.
we will have a lot to talk about.
All the
I
cards
want to
are on
go
the
through.
table.
Literally.
This is an interesting question. I interpreted it as he just died, but
I don't remember what happened to him.
I honestly don't remember what happened to the conductor. I've only watched it once all the way through at this point, and
Okay,
it was
well,
I saw that episode when I was on 2
Yeah, go
hours.
on, Rachel.
that was a
Rachel,
very
fill
cool
us
thing
in.
because he's sitting in the chair and being like, it wasn't me. I just ran there and like the person, like I had traveled with these people and they killed her. And then when I got there, they were gone. So, and then he's just like, is that true? And then the heart render next to him is like, nope, he crossed with them, but everything else is a lie. And he's like, what?
Is it a vine?
And again, I
Is it
thought it
Ivan?
was really cool because his heartbeat was like incorporated into the beat in the background without saying
So
what
good.
it was. But you could kind of tell, and it just kept like getting faster and faster and faster until he was like, "Oh, that's a heart render," and he knows you're lying. So it was like,
That was so good.
oh, that was very
really
cool.
cool.
Heart
And then
renders
he
are
was like,
Render Ivan, or was it?
Yeah, that was
Wait,
Ivan.
I think it was
Yeah.
Ivan, yeah.
Okay.
And then he was
Ivan,
saying like, "Well, who are you?"
you're
And he was like
cool.
asking him who he was, and he just kept lying. And he was like, "Oh, you're the conductor. You're this guy." And it was like, "Yeah, I just don't trust anything that you have to say." And like, you've been trying to smuggle out Grisha. And he's like, "No, no, no, I don't do that." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, where's Nina? Because I sent her out. She should have been with that crew, and now she's gone. Is that you're doing?" And he's like, "No, no, no, it wasn't me." And basically, he's just like, "Anyway, I'm done with you." And then all of this, like, everyone leaves, and all this darkness just like gets closer and closer, and just like encapsulates the guy, and he's just gone.
I'm still bummed about the conductor's like what the conductor's purpose was. I think he should have been different, but it's fine.
I thought he was so dumb because he was like, he offered me $1 million to kill her. You know what? You give me $500,000 and I'll do whatever you want. And I was like, you are like, you're already under his knife. Like, why are you negotiating for money?
But he knows
right
he's
now?
gonna die, so you'd say anything, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but like, I would rather give someone, be like, "Oh, I'll give you money if you let me live," versus like, "Give me some money and I'll help you." Where it was like, what are you trying to do?
no, but he was
Yeah,
trying
it
to.
makes
No, I think I liked what he did because he was like, "Okay, I'll literally go kill the general if you want." I mean, he shouldn't have been like, "Pay me and I'll go do this thing
But
for
that's
you."
the
I
thing
get
where he was
that.
just like, "You got to give me some money," and then
But
I'll
he did
help you,
have
'cause when-
something that the Darkling
But
wanted.
the thing is,
so I
like,
could
he
see
has
that.
no loyalty, though. Like, he'll
Yeah.
be bought so easily. So it was just like, it doesn't make sense to let him go because he's
And I
just
love
gonna
how he's
do
like
everything.
propositioning to do a job when it's so clear that he didn't do the job well and that he ended up there, like being
That's
caught.
true.
And he's just
But
like,
honestly, I would
I'll
do
do
anything
this job
for
for you. And the Darkling is like, you're not good at this.
You know, Nina, she was supposed to be working as a spy for the Darkling, right?
Yeah.
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 And she was supposed to what? Spy on the crows or something.
I guess so.
The
I feel
conductor.
like she was a spy in general, right?
Yeah, she
Not
just
not for the show.
Yeah, she at this point, Nina has no idea who the crows are. She was supposed to figure out who the conductor was because the conductor was helping
Smuggling
Grisha.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
out of the
smuggle
hotel.
across the fold.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think she was just a spy in general.
Speaking
But
of
also,
Nina,
can we
though,
talk about Nina?
yes, we can. We're on the same page here.
I will
There's
always
so
talk about Nina.
much good Nina Matthias content in this, and even just Nina herself. There's like a scene where she speaks like perfect Fjorden, and Matthias is like, "How the hell do you know like perfectly fluent?"
And she's just like, I
Fjorden?
speak
She's
6 languages.
It's my job.
For the
part of
annual
my job.
running spelling bee, and and no one.
Katie, you are speaking my languages.
Yep.
I speak 6 languages.
Don't know what that's about, but okay.
It's okay. It's just Katie and me.
It's a musical. Yeah.
But I love that. I loved everything that happened in this episode with them. There was only one bed. Beautiful trope. Loved it.
And also,
Loved
because
it.
Christine was saying this earlier, the thing where they got shipwrecked together. And it was just sort of like, ooh, because before they were like drown, or like kill everybody if like it gets into rough waters. And he was like, oh, but they're supposed to be on trial. And it was like, maybe this thing you're working for is not as nice as it's pretending to be. So they're like, just kill everybody. And he's like, no. And then all of a sudden they just end up shipwrecked together. So it's sort of that start of like, let me start to question the values I've been raised with. And now they're totally just like, hey, there's only one bed. You're soaking wet. You gotta take your clothes off. I gotta take my clothes off. I guess we'll huddle together for warmth. And maybe you'll wake up with your arm around me.
So good. It's a trope I will never get
really
sick
trying to act like he doesn't like Nina, and like he likes her from step 1. Like
The tension on the boat, man.
bread and not breaking her fingers to get like what you want from her. Like you are choosing to be nice. So please, sir, don't act like you're a tough guy because you're a soft boy, and we love it.
I love when Matthias puts himself in horny jail. Like that's
Like, seriously,
he's always
Literally.
like, for horny jail, thinking about Nina again. Myself away.
But literally, this is back to episode 5, so I'm sorry. But when Nina's all chained up and they're on the ship and whatever, Nina's like, you are being nice to me because you like feel bad for being a jerk or something like that. And then he's like, he looks at her lips and he looks at her face, and then he like takes a second to say, I don't feel anything for you. And I'm like, liar, you were just hardcore thinking about her lips.
Guys.
that's very interesting, right? Because Nina's a heartrender, and you know he lies, right? And so I'm thinking, like, from
She could
step
probably tell,
one, they
yeah.
have this chemistry, and the way that they're talking to each other, it's because Nina knows this man is lying. Like, she knows that he likes her. Okay,
The power she has.
yes. So it's like, I think it makes complete sense, like from step 1, that they're so attached to each other because obviously.
Also,
Also, like trauma bonding because they were both just like stuck off the ship together and they were just stuck together.
Yeah, the Titanic moment.
Mhm.
And the fact that she was like, you swim and I'll keep you alive. And I was like, oh, because she could do that. Oh, I'm finally
I
understanding
really-
what Grisha can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave so
understand.
much. I really like that there was a part with that where like, I can't keep us warm and swim at the same time. And he's like, okay, I'll swim, you do. But he can't really say, like, he can't encourage her to use her power, but he doesn't want to die.
And
So he
but
doesn't
yeah,
give.
I'll swim. I'll
Yeah.
swim.
I
It's
just really like that, like the little details.
And the way that all of their scenes are direct quotes from the book. Like
Yes.
Nina's
Exactly from the book.
There's like I can't remember if there's a scene that happens in this episode where is it the one where they introduce them each other, like they introduce
Yeah,
themselves?
episode 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single quote in that scene is like a direct quote from the book, or just slightly different and
Yeah.
like delicious.
And that's why
It's
they're great.
All their scenes are perfect. So, like,
Mhm.
why change it if it ain't broke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally.
It ain't broke, don't
Nemo
fix
Dugo
it.
is the queen of dialogue. Like, why wouldn't they use it word for word?
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Why didn't she write the entire script is my question. Like, they should have just let her do it.
Literally, why not?
Well,
She's
yeah.
too busy making me mad.
Oh,
But that's what we were saying also in our chat before. It's just like every single pairing is so good because like
So good.
like I was immediately already rooting for like Nina and Matthias not knowing anything, and like Mal and Alina again the setup
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
every pairing that's being set up here is like you want that so bad as an audience to happen.
Even for
And they like set it up so well.
minor, like even Lee Bardugo's super minor couples are so strong.
Oh yeah.
They're so
Katie,
compelling.
which super minor character?
Like,
what,
okay,
what are you
even
talking
stuff-
about specifically?
Oh, even
Katie?
like Katie's favorite character. Okay, but I will say, because like when Jenya and David kind of like don't acknowledge each other, but
Oh my God,
that's
their
how they
little, like,
acknowledge each other.
moment.
Oh my god, that scene when at the demonstration where he's
Yeah,
just
when they
like
kept-
looking at her and he
Like she
smiles,
looked at
like-
him and he was just like, "Oh, it's."
He was like,
and as soon as she looked away, he was like,
But can we say he's too cute to be David? Because all he has to do is tilt his lips just a little bit, and I was like,
Here's the thing.
Jayla
Good.
Braxton Horns.
Jayla is like full like radio rebel, like.
I was like, yes, like
There's a reason this life is called The Simping
Yeah.
Continues, and this is it.
But
He
I
was
was
like-
never all that into David, so yeah, this really converted me for sure.
Katie, you need to watch The Musketeers because he is fine. He's fine in that. We were talking about it in the last live show. So
Oh, I should watch it.
you need to.
So what I love about that staring scene too is like, first of all, he's looking first. Second of all, when she turns and then he's like, must look suave, and he's like raises the eyebrow. He's like, maybe now she'll think I'm cute, and it's like, no, she already does.
Yeah.
Ugh. Also, that was like my favorite change from the book because he doesn't go to the party in the book, and
Right.
she's like, there's a whole conversation where Alina's like, "Oh, is David coming tonight, Jenya?" Wah wah wah. She's like, "No, but I did go show him like my dress because I want him to fall in love with me." And I was like, that was a good point.
I prefer this.
David did not care in the first book. Well, he didn't seem like
Yeah, I
he
prefer this
cared.
adaptation
He cared.
because but in the book it's a lot more unrequited in the first moments that you
Yeah,
see.
I didn't
Oh,
even realize. David liked
So disagree. I so disagree.
Katie has
No,
studied
really?
every moment David has been in.
I
for
feel
Book One.
I feel like
David's been on the page, and he's just bad with emotions because he's neurodivergent.
no, for sure. But I feel like this scene is specifically demonstrated that so well, and it was just such a little scene, and you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the scene like just demonstrated like all that he was already feeling, but that he couldn't deal with much better than in the first book.
I think for people who don't like actually read it, like it's a much clearer scene of their relationship. I also laugh every time someone is like, "Oh, don't you just think they weren't in it enough?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, but they're in it more than they were in the book.
Yeah.
for sure.
Very true.
Okay, that is a good thing about this show because, like you said, all these minor characters, everyone is getting a little bit more than they would have gotten in the book. Like, you know, so we have
Except
our
Marie.
main characters that
Except for
definitely have
Marie.
that
R.I.P.
chemistry
Marie.
with,
We all
like,
have to make
Al's
sacrifices.
mother, with David, with like our
Mhm.
two little lovebird, like, you know, and I'm really enjoying that. I like
And
that.
that's why
I like that.
I'm excited for the twins in the next season.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited for Tolia and Tamar.
I feel like it's gonna be really hard to find like an actor for
Okay, but
Talia.
I saw some actor tweet something like, "Oh, I would love to play in the Grishaverse," and then I stalked him for like 3 seconds, and he's the perfect Tolia. Can't remember who it was.
Cool.
You need
Oh.
to remember because I need to know what happened.
I can't remember, but I did see a tweet.
I
and
don't-
I met him, and I was like, "Did we find?"
Okay, like confession. Whenever they like talked about Tolia in the books, I pictured him as like Shampoo in Mulan. You know, like big teddy bear guy. And then I saw some fan art. Yeah, then I saw some fan art though of Tolia, and they like made him hot, and I was very confused.
Oh no.
Shampoo is so hot though. Oh my god.
I was like, what?
And I can't even imagine how hot Tamar is gonna be. She's gonna show up with her double axes, and I'm gonna be like,
Strapped to her thighs.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have no idea what you guys are talking about. I got
Oh yeah, you gotta
yeah.
read.
You'll see
love
it.
them.
But I will say something that is back to what you would know. But with Nina and Matthias, I'm sorry, I keep coming back to them because I love them.
I will
But-
always talk about them.
We didn't talk about them falling through the ice, or her falling through the ice. And that scene, what's his face? I don't know his real name, the actor, but
Yeah,
Matthias,
he's
how
so
his
good.
face. White boys are so good at doing the psycho, like,
Yeah,
you
he
can have
looks
your neck at any
so
moment
scary.
and not feel bad about it face. And he did that face.
Literally.
He had me like for a minute that I was like, are you gonna drop
Good?
it?
Yeah, like, are
knew
you
wouldn't, but I
playing
was just
this?
He
Like,
looked like he was gonna get a knife and
sideways.
stab himself. Like, he looked so scary. It looked like he was gonna
He
kill her.
looked
or something.
terrifying.
for sure.
So I was just
Yeah,
really
like,
impressed
I
by
was-
that.
because I thought it was like a little bit fast. Like I was ready for it, but it was a little fast because he was like, "Of course I like you. I like this. Like you're like this. You're like that." And I was like, "Okay, so kiss, so do it." And then she fell off a cliff, and I was like, "Okay, no." And, like in that moment, there was like just a slight hesitation where I was like,
Oh damn!
"It was all of this
See-
a lie? Like, are you going to betray me in this one episode?"
That would have been the greatest.
I
plot
thought that
twist,
moment where he stared at her was so long, though. I was literally like, "How have you taken this long to decide?" Like in my head,
That's what
Yeah,
I
where I was like,
about
pick her elbow up and move. Like, come on.
Well,
son.
because his change.
I
comes
liked
with
that you got to-
an instinctual change, you know, because his whole life has been taught to kill people like her. So
Yeah.
it's like it just shows how like quick it changes, and then he has to literally reel it in and be like, okay, I just said I liked her. I kind of want to keep her around. I'll save her. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like everything about Nina's character has literally been based in like everything that you know about me isn't true because I'm my own person.
Right.
You think that just because I'm a Grisha that I should die, and he's like, yeah, well, your people try to kill us, and it's like your people try to kill us.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like that's the first. It's sort of like going to college when you realize that the world is bigger than your hometown, and you're like, oh, there are different ideas out there, and I don't have to think the same thing I thought growing up. And that's his college experience. That's all like condensed into like 3
Nina.
things. But just like
One
he's like
Nitro.
realizing all that stuff, and he just can like instinctually is kind of like, I have to protect her from like she doesn't deserve to die this way. It's just not
Yeah.
the way to
And
go.
what's so interesting about Nina and Matthias's dynamic is especially when you learn about in the book, they go really deep in like not really deep, but they do touch more on like specifically Matthias's feelings for Grisha beyond being a Druskel, however you pronounce it, and like why he actually truly hates them from a personal level. And like when you start to really understand that, their dynamic becomes so much more interesting. And I think it's real. I always like they're so I don't know, almost like Romeo and Juliet-ish, where they have like they're not supposed to love each other, but like they do because finds a way.
Oh man.
Katie.
We love
You're
it.
gonna make me cry. Katie's gotten so many videos of me just crying over Nina and Matthias.
Catherine and I have a really fun understanding where she gets all of my videos where I have like David and Jenya breakdowns, and she sends me all of her Nina and Matthias breakdowns, and it's a really cute moment.
It's really great.
The bonding.
We're both super mentally stable. It's fine.
It's great.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I will say one thing that I don't like that we get in this episode is Zoya trying to get with the Darkling after Alina's escaped.
Oh my
And
god,
just
I
think
was like,
silly.
hello. She
What?
just left. And she's like, anyway.
She's like,
remember
you
when
used
I
to
did
come
this?"
to
And I was
me
like,
when
oh
your
god.
house was messy and your bed was neat. And I was like, this line, first of all, is bad.
I was like, this is not
So
good.
bad, so bad. That took me
I
like
love
Zoya.
I
Like,
don't.
I
Yeah,
It's
I
so
love it.
Zoya though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to think that Zoya wasn't mean enough in this season, and my personal take.
I think they
Yeah,
redeemed
Zoya's awful in the books.
Yeah.
my,
horrible.
my,
Really mean.
my friend who hasn't read any of the books was so confused about that because she was literally like, how did they redeem her so quickly?
Yeah,
I
the
don't
implication
know.
they've already been together is
Really,
like
Zoya
something.
likes it too fast. You're not supposed to like Zoya until Rune and Rising at the earliest, and even
Yeah.
then, like,
Yeah.
earliest.
but not even really.
Yeah.
I kind of like in Rune and Rising, you're like, okay, she's funny, and like I'm starting to come around, but like I'm like you're not her favorite. You're not even supposed to like her until King of Scars, and
Yeah.
like
Even then,
and even
so
then
much
like,
later.
oh, bitch,
Yeah.
you know, like you can see
Yeah.
why she is, but she's not a nice person
Yeah.
in general.
And I do want to say, we talked a lot about like her comment to Alina in episode 2 or 3 or something where she called her a half-breed. But there is, I didn't notice this before, but in episode 5, like entering the ballroom, there's this couple that comes up the stairs and there's like
Yeah.
a Suli girl doing silk dance. I forgot what you call it. Was that a
Yeah.
Nash? Oh, I
That was a
totally, I thought it was just
Nash, yeah.
another girl. I thought it was a regular girl.
No.
Duh. Okay, anyway, and Nesh is doing her thing. And then some woman goes, oh, I had no idea the Shu were so talented. No, the Zemeni were so talented.
Yeah,
and then
she
Zoya's
goes,
walking past and
she's
goes,
Suli.
she's Suli. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I like her. Like, I
It's
know
not
that.
that Zoya.
Hello?
what?
Hello.
Who just
I think Katie was about to start talking.
No, Jayla, keep talking. You can keep
Oh,
talking.
I was going to say, like, I know that Zoya's not racist. I don't like that they gave her that line in that episode. whichever it was. But I do know, like, they put that other line in because she's not a racist, and I just like, why is white supremacy still a thing in fantasy? I know it exists in the real world, but sometimes I just want to escape that. And so even in the like fantasy Grishaverse, when people are getting these races mixed up and they can't bother to recognize, it's just so frustrating. So I'm glad there was a character like that in the show. Like, you're ignorant and you're mixing up clearly very different types of groups. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
think
it
it's
shows,
interesting
too,
because
like,
in the
why she said what she said to Alina, because she said it to Alina to like fuck with Alina, you know.
Yeah.
Alina's already like, oh shit, I'm Shu. People look at me weird because like I'm half Shu.
She took a stab that was already hanging low.
Right. Yeah.
In the book, though, there is Suli Ravkin tension throughout the entire books.
Yeah.
Because of like past issues. So
Suli or Shu?
Suli and Ravka have big issues. And
I remember this.
Specifically in the King of Scars books.
I have to read those. Okay.
So like in the trilogy, they don't talk about it because I don't think there's even mentions of the Suli culture. And if there are, they're minuscule in the trilogy. But especially in the Six of Crows with Inej's relationship with the crown. And then as we get really into King of Scars, they really dive into the Suli Ravkin tension. And it's very interesting.
And I think I remember when the Grisha trilogy first came out, Leigh Bardugo did actually get like some flack for making it like very white just in general. And so in Six of Crows, she did work with like sensitivity readers and things like that to make sure that her cast was more diverse. So I know that's like one of the reasons why the Crows in particular are so much more diverse than anyone in the Grisha trilogy. So
yeah, and I think it shows, and I appreciate that's why I love that series so much, because there are so many different characters and they have backgrounds, they have ethnicities, they have countries that they come from, and I just think that's so cool, and so I appreciate that.
And it builds so much more onto a character for you. Like, even not really knowing them, just knowing them from the show, it's just nice to see people that it's like, I know who that is. If there's like a bunch of white guys in a room, honestly, can't always tell them apart. Kind of just like Brad Pitt. I'm not sure who that
I think that's why they specifically asked for Alina to be half Asian. Like they cast her as half
Mal.
Asian. And Mal, is he supposed to be like half Asian? I mean, I know he's like,
I think he is.
in real life he's a Pakistani.
Yeah.
He's definitely not entirely white, though. Like, that's sort of what they were going for.
Were they going for half Asian? Because they should.
I feel like in the show it wasn't obvious because they cast Alina aside for being half Shu. Even in the army, you know that scene where in the line where she's trying to get food and they put her back in the line. So I feel like it isn't obvious because I feel like they would have done the same to Mal.
I think Mal actually. I think it's an interesting balance between Mal and Alina. Like, not to be like but like I think with their relationship, to have Mal be a little bit more passing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like he's white passing, and that's why he gets away with stuff. And he's a man, so.
And he's a man.
So,
I had no idea that in the show that he was supposed to be, because I know like they came from the same place, but they didn't necessarily have to be the same ethnicity or being half Shu as well.
I think he is supposed to be half Shu, though. I feel like I read an.
I thought he was.
I think that's why they bonded so much in the orphanage.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't look like a lot of the other soldiers, so I just sort of thought, like, I'm pretty sure he has kind of the same background that Alina does, but it's sort of like the vanishing half, where it's sort of like, what if there was someone who looked more white?
Well, why wouldn't they cast someone who's half Asian then?
Do what?
Wait, what?
I mean, there's issues with Hollywood in general doing that. But
yeah, but cast him is first of all the wrong Asian if he's going to be Shu, and then second of all he's not even half; he's like quarter. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I think they truly wanted to do like someone who was a little more like white passing.
But there's so many white passing half Asians. So
they could have chose that guy from Riverdale, whose face I hate.
No.
Not because
why do we keep on bringing up Riverdale?
Sorry, do I do that a lot?
I'm kidding. Dana, who are you talking about?
Maybe
I will not discuss Riverdale.
Like, who knows? Who knows?
But Archie also killed it. So like, there could have
is like so good.
So I think at the end of the day, too, is Archie won the role in his acting. you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that he wasn't half Asian. I did no research going into the show, to be
Oh, I
honest.
did research because he's hot. That was my only reason for doing it.
Fair. I
But-
assumed that he was half Asian going into it, but it's
Okay, see,
interesting to
this
know
is
that
what
he
he
is.
looks like on the fan page, and he doesn't even look.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
Mal
he's supposed to be like
so
basic white
vaguely
guy.
Yeah, but yeah, he was white in the books. That's why.
They're all
Yeah.
white.
I
Like,
think
he's
so,
a lot
yeah.
of
like
white,
blonde
right?
in the books for some
Yeah.
reason.
He was
I
blonde
always
with
pictured
blue eyes,
blonde
right?
too.
Yeah,
He was
I
blonde,
thought
yeah.
they said he had light hair, but yeah. I don't know.
Mal is so vaguely described though, like physically in the
Yeah.
books. Like all we know is he's handsome. Like,
Yeah.
And he has
Like, he's-
light eyes, I'm pretty sure. Is what it
Yeah.
said.
He has blue eyes, yeah.
He's like
Yeah,
basic
yeah.
white guy, Nick
Yeah,
Archibald.
so he's
like-
just like typical white dude.
Yeah.
white boy.
I mean, they did the same thing with Jasper, making him light skinned. But
Yeah,
That's
I'm
Hollywood,
telling you, like
baby.
Nej is literally the
And-
truest like cast character.
literally,
I agree.
And they did the same thing with Nina of making her not plus sized. So
ooh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw someone's video on that. I didn't even think of it honestly until someone brought that up.
I
Yeah,
personally
I've
think
thought
she
about
is
it
plus
that
size.
a
That's
lot.
why I'm
Oh no,
like,
she's definitely plus size in the book. Like, that
the
is-
book-
no, I mean in the show.
No.
Oh yeah, exactly. She is quite big.
I mean,
Well, I
People
mean,
are-
I feel like when I saw her on screen, I was like, who is this? Because then they were like, and this is Nina. And I was like, isn't Nina supposed to be fat in the books? Because I feel like she's like fat by Hollywood standards.
Mhm.
She is
But like
a
for fat
cool
rep, I
girl.
kind of feel like it's sort of like the bare minimum. Because she
No, and
literally
I
looks
agree
like
with
a
that, but I
regular
do-
person I would see like in New Jersey, here in New Jersey. Like we don't subscribe to Hollywood standards here in New Jersey. We like don't look like they do in the movies. So when I was
Yeah.
like, it's supposed to be the fat rep for Nina, because like I heard buzz about this before the show came out, where people said like this person got cast and this is what's going on. Then people said like Nina's cast, or like the Nina's actress, wasn't like the right fit because she didn't actually represent the fat rep that they wanted from the books. So
Yeah,
I've heard
okay.
that conversation going around, not really like knowing the character in the book. I was kind of like, I'll let you guys have this conversation because I don't have anything to add, but it's just something interesting to see. And then when I saw her character, I was sort of like, I literally don't think she's fat though. Like I don't see how she's supposed to be fat rep because she just
she's
Yeah.
very average size. Like the actress herself, she is average size, but in Hollywood, she is like
average size is fat
considered.
in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I was going
exactly.
purely based off of Hollywood standards of what like fat is, not saying that she's the perfect plus size model rep that we were looking for. So I totally agree with that. But
and that's the problem is when like casting directors will cast like plus size characters, they'll then cast these like very average size people and be like, oh yes, this is plus sized. And then that makes everyone who is that normal, very average size be like, oh, am I plus sized? Because then people are like comparing.
It's sort
like
of
one
like
of the things
shrinks
that I've
what's allowed. in a way.
exactly, and
So it's
well,
sort
that's
of
one
like-
of the things that I've seen around is that people are like, oh well, she is curvy and she is bigger than Inej and Alina, and I'm like, okay, but the
Yeah,
actresses
that's not
who
the
play Inej
description.
and
Alina and
Alina
Inej
are
are,
like
like, 5
sticks.
foot tall. Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're
So,
like
they're
teeny
petite.
tiny. So like,
I mean,
yes,
it kind
she's
of feels like
bigger than
a
them,
reach
but-
if Nina is literally supposed to be fat and she's supposed to have fat rep, and then being like, but she's curvy. Like, yeah, but they're not the
Yeah.
same thing. So
Yeah,
that's a reach to be like, yeah, but so it's okay. Like I'm enjoying the show. I am having fun with the show, but I absolutely recognize that there are things about it that people are not happy about,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
want to fight the battle for them because I truly don't have a lot of ground to stand on personally with the show's connection and everything to myself. But I absolutely see like why that is a problem and how if it's not true to the source material, then it kind of feels like Hollywood is saying like, look, we cast a fat
Yeah,
person if
yeah.
you wanted to, and it's like, but you didn't.
Mhm.
I would love to actually see an interview of her talking about this because
She
I
has.
would love to know if she considers herself as a plus size actress.
drop the link, Katie.
So she's yeah.
And she doesn't. She said she doesn't consider herself a plus size character,
Right.
but she the reason that she said though that in this interview she said that when she read the book she felt connected to Nina in the way that someone who wasn't perfectly twig skinny and like the perfect ideal Hollywood body type was perceived, because she was like, I have been declined roles for my body many times. So to see a role that she was like, I could do this, made her go for it. So like in that regard, like I do very much sympathize with her, and like I understand completely as a mid-sized actor who's terrified of like entering, like graduating college and entering this as a mid-sized actor, and like that fear, you know, like that sort of position. And I felt the same way when I read Six of Crows the first time. I was like, oh my God, finally a character who is not a stick, you know, like someone that we all, like anyone who's not skinny can project onto. But there's this thing too of like, Nina is definitely plus size. Oh, or just like way curvier than Danielle is to begin with.
Yeah.
However, Danielle did say, she's like, I am not saying that I am the Nina Zenick like ideal person either. She was like, I am not saying that I am Nina. I am not, like, she's like, I am playing her, but I'm not the only interpretation of her that there can be. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I heard
talk
that.
what you want. Do not base me off of her. I am just playing her in a show. There are millions of Nina Zennicks. And like, I thought that was the part of her interview that like she won me, was that she said, she's like, I'm not saying that I am exactly what Nina
is. Right.
I love that too, because I feel like there are a lot of characters like that were cast. I mean, I've said this before, but even like Zoya, like she doesn't look like how I thought she was gonna look. I thought she was gonna be tall and like blue-eyed and, you know, whatever.
Well, and the thing is too with that is I always feel like when people are like, I'm mad because the casting doesn't look exactly like how I pictured it in my brain.
Right.
I'm like, but it's a book and it's an imagination interpretive, and everyone
You think
sees
people
it
have purple eyes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone pictures people differently when they read a book.
Yeah, there's no way we could all be
I
happy.
can say for sure, anytime I'm like reading a book and it's like brown hair, brown eyes, I'm like, cool, they look just like me. Like,
Yeah,
that's literally it.
I wish I had that energy. I need to start doing that.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I tried to do that, and then they're described as white, and I'm like, there goes
Yeah,
my-
like, oh,
your brain.
Oh, no.
But like that's the thing is I'm like when I see people like having discourse about this actor doesn't look exactly like how I pictured, I'm like, it's because you pictured it differently.
Yeah.
Like I saw someone like Heftas don't look how I imagined it. I'm like, they're of course not gonna look how
look better.
because it's
you think that Bardugo
in the book, like we don't, you know, like she just basically says the cloth material, and then it goes up like this.
Yeah,
And
literally, there was like barely any discussion about it.
You know,
I do wonder though, like if Lee has any more say in who gets cast, because I feel like she put that in the book for a reason. If she gave,
and Lee,
I feel like maybe
as well. Lee has talked about it a few times, the Danielle casting specifically, because she said, because Lee Bardugo is a plus size person and has fluctuated weight her entire life, she said, and she said that she doesn't think it's her place to decide like what body type Danielle should and shouldn't have for this role. You know, like, it's not her job to make an assumption about her body.
And I feel like maybe if I don't think that she had like the final say in who gets chosen, but I feel like imagine it, like she goes into it with a very specific image of who her character is, and in her head she has maybe Jesper as a dark-skinned man and Nina as a plus-size woman, and then she just finds these actors that fit her, like not physically, but like that just embody who her character is just so perfectly. And it kind of like, because imagine Kit, like even though he isn't a dark-skinned man and it doesn't have that representation, I feel like they knew what they were doing when they hired him, because he's just like the perfect embodiment of Jesper. And I feel like it's sometimes hard to combine both of these things and find someone that personality-wise and character-wise is just exactly who you want that character to be, and then exactly having the perfect look for it as well. And I feel like that's a very hard thing to combine, maybe. So I feel like maybe when Danielle came on set, she was just like, this is Nina. And you know, like it's.
I'm pretty
I
sure
feel
she
like
said
she-
that too.
Yeah,
pretty
I feel
sure
like
said
she-
I would rather have them like embody the like spirit of the character than be like exactly what, you know, I described in the book.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying like whitewash characters to benefit. I'm not saying that, but like
Of course not.
when it's like these types of not the little difference. Obviously, there is difference between a dark skinned character and a light skinned character, but I feel like sometimes maybe it's best to go with who you feel like is just perfect for the character.
I mean,
even
I
if they
definitely
don't
like
have
see
the
what you're
exact
saying
look.
because I think like there could be a person who physically looks like them, but if they don't have the spirit of the character, then they're not just going to
Yeah.
be a good fit for the role. I think that also there is definitely like a lot of internal biases that play into that, whether people want to admit them or not. So you could be like, oh, this person's perfect. We don't need to ask anybody else to like come in for the role.
I agree.
And there
Yeah,
could
maybe.
be like someone who fits them physically and spiritually to look exactly like the character, but you just happen to never see their thing. It doesn't mean they're not out there, but unfortunately, the thing is just like the fact that this series as a whole means a lot to a lot of people generally means that especially because like we're in the age where we can like criticize things very often, it's more likely we're just going to see a lot of criticism about these things. But the reality is this kind of stuff happens all the time. And this is the sort of thing that like when things get adapted and it's not what you expect, sometimes it's just like, oh, I thought that this person would have blue eyes versus brown eyes. But that
in the
versus
Hunger
like,
Games.
oh, hey, I thought this person was going to be Native American. Like, I thought Katniss was
I
going to
think
be
there's a big
Yes.
difference.
Yes.
It's sort of
Yeah.
like,
for sure,
100%.
for sure.
okay.
Yeah,
And I
like,
think
I have a lot of
some
problems
those
with the Hunger
things-
Games casting. We can't go into
Yeah.
it or I'll get upset.
So, I mean, like, some of those things I think come to light years later when more people generally are aware of those things. But I think probably by the time that, like, the Hunger Games was being cast, it wasn't something that was fully in the social awareness sphere for a lot of people to care about it. And it's literally only because we started talking about Indigenous issues now that we're like, oh, Katniss was probably supposed to be an Indigenous person, and it was coded that way without even being like, you know, explicitly said, but it would make a lot of sense for that. And instead we had Jennifer Lawrence. So it's sort of like, okay, I guess, but it would have been cool if that.
And the thing is, too, with casting Jennifer Lawrence, they cast a star. And, like, back in the age of those adaptations, they were casting big names to get tickets from people who weren't going to see it. Because there wasn't streaming services like there are now. So, like, a small project wouldn't have succeeded with a small, you know, like Shadow and Bone having a cast of almost entirely, like, nameless actors. And Ben Barnes, who even then is, like, only a household name to some, would have been really ballsy in 2012. Like, it would not would not
Because
have
we
happened.
didn't disagree with that for the Hunger Games, though.
Well, you know? So,
I mean,
don't
Josh
know.
Hutchinson was a guy.
He was a big name, yes. And
He was a guy.
he was a guy.
Haymitch, whoever plays Haymitch.
No, I'm
The
not.
whole
I'm
Hunger
saying,
Games
that's what I'm
cast
saying.
was
These are all
stars,
big
okay?
names, but I
Haymitch,
don't.
Effie, freaking
Yeah,
Katniss.
It was
They
an
got
all-star cast.
nominated for an
And, like,
Oscar
she
before
was
that
there.
movie. Like,
So that's what I'm saying. Like the Hunger Games, I don't think it needed a star cast. The Hunger Games is a worldwide phenomenon that would have done well because the fans are diehard fans.
But it
I don't
was at the time of the movie's release, it wasn't as big as it was afterwards.
right.
That's
And it's all about the studio. It's all about the studio and who the executive producers are going to spend money on. Like, if they cast somebody who is like fairly well known, like Katniss.
I didn't think Jennifer Lawrence was that well known, so I was
for them to
surprised.
bring in bigger returns. So it like really is all about money. But now that like, you know, we're so many years
probably
later,
the Hunger
we
Games
kind of,
turned
as the audience say like, okay, we want this. Like we want them to be cast as who they are. So I think, it's just like, it's only going to get better the more that we like talk about it.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I think Jennifer Lawrence like was shot into stardom because of the Hunger Games, but she had like smaller roles before.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
So,
say.
like the rest of the cast, I think, was pretty well known already.
Yeah, she was nominated for an Oscar before.
Yeah, she was nominated for the reason why
what?
she got Hunger Games is because she skinned a
Winter.
squirrel.
What is
Winter's
it?
Bone.
Winter's Bone.
Yeah.
Really?
That
That was
Sorry,
awesome.
wait, hold on. Christine, say that again. What?
The reason why she got the audition for Hunger Games is because she learned how to skin a squirrel in Winter's Bone. And she was nominated for an Oscar.
Oh,
And they were like,
okay.
perfect. She's literally perfect.
She's just not brown.
I didn't know. I didn't know that she was up for an Oscar for Winter's Bone. I did watch Winter's Bone. I thought it was okay. Like, it was a good movie. But anyway, it's not about the Oscars, though. but I didn't think she was that big of a household name or anything, so that's interesting to me. I was like, oh, Jennifer Lawrence, I've never heard of her before.
Yeah, I didn't know
She's
her.
pretty.
Of course, in hindsight, 9 years later from the Hunger Games, we're like, oh, it was a worldwide phenomenon. But in 2010-ish, when they were like actually casting that movie and actually like producing it, it wasn't like, of course, the books were big, but it was the same sort of phenomenon that the Shadow and Bone series had.
Right.
It wasn't a household name. It wasn't like something else. It's like huge at the point. It was the movies that drove it to become a true worldwide phenomenon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah.
is
The other thing that we have to remember is that, like, we love books, right? Like, we just talk about books all day long. We love books. But think about how many people are like, I joined BookTube because the people in my real life, I can't talk about them with books. So most people are like, I am like the nucleus of the book thing, and everyone else kind of reads books like one a year. And we're all like, I gotta read 300 books a year. Like, we're all like that. So we love books. We're crazy about them. But when you think about like generally the general consensus, the amount of people that read books and are like really, really, really interested in a certain show getting adapted, like a certain book series getting adapted into a show, that's a very, very small percentage. So even for the Hunger Games, when that was like on the shelves and everyone was buying them, but how many people were really like reading it and being like, this has to be a movie? It was mostly
Right.
like they found the rights to the book and they were like, this would be a really good multi-million-dollar idea. Let's turn it into a movie. And then everyone watched the movie and then they were like, wait, this is really good. Now I'll read the book. So it was never really just like purely the books are so good. Everyone's read them. Now let's turn it into a thing. Now it's going to be a big deal. And with the whole thing that we talked about before with like now it's all moved over to streaming, it's so accessible that they have the luxury of being like, we don't have to cast giant big names. We could if we wanted to, but we don't have to because it's easily accessible in your home and you already have a Netflix subscription. We know this. You're going to watch it anyway.
And what I find in relation to Shadow and Bone, I found it so interesting when I realized how many people hadn't read Shadow and Bone and were just now reading Shadow and Bone. Starting in like March. I saw so many people on TikTok. Yeah, I saw so many people like on TikTok who were like, "Oh, the show is coming out. I am just now starting Shadow and Bone," and I like was sitting here like, "It's been out for like 10 years."
I had no interest in reading the book until the show.
Same. I read Six of Crows and I was like, I'm done.
So it's like
I bought the
weird.
box set like years ago, and then I never read it until the show's coming out. I guess I should finally read that thing I spent money on all those years ago.
So like we're seeing a ton of like Shadow and Bone content like in our sphere, but like all those people hadn't read it until literally like a month ago. So while we think it's big,
it's so interesting to be on an adaptation, like to be in a fan base of an adaptation I'm excited for like the first time. I feel like at the time it's happening. Like when I was like when Hunger Games came out, I was a little bit too young to truly appreciate the fandom of it all. Like I went to the premieres and stuff, but like social media wasn't as important in, all these things. Like Stan Twitter didn't exist as much in 2012. So like it's so fun to be a part of like this fan base and like we did the Jerseyverse read along or whatever, and then like it's just been like really exciting to build that up, and then like so it's really cool to see now like how it's being like how some people are joining in like a month ago and how they're excited too, and then to see as people like I've had friends who watch the show and they're like, I'm gonna pick up the books. Like I have a friend who's like, I haven't read a book in 4 years and I'm gonna go read Shadow. Like
good for her. Tell her to read Six of Crows first.
That was my friend. That's how I got her into reading. She had not read a book in her life, basically, and I got her to read Six of Crows. She was obsessed. Like loved it.
I love to hear that.
We're real influencers, you guys. Yay.
Yeah. So I had a friend.
This is what it's all about.
Good,
But I think the one thing with things being more accessible online is it then opens it up to a lot more opinions, some of which are way too overbearing because the amount of like actors who have been like bullied off of social media because the fandom be cray.
Are you talking about Akatar?
Well, Akatar, but also Danielle.
It's happened a lot.
Danielle Galligan took a break from Instagram and Twitter for a while because people were like bombarding her with like messages and stuff because she is smaller than what they imagined. And it's like, that's not on the actor. Like that. Talk about the casting. Yeah, talk about the casting director, talk about like the producers and stuff, but to like bully an actor that much is absolutely insane.
That's
like,
the thing, so, like,
bully them, especially though when she's said that she has literally not gotten parts because of her body too. So like she might not be like as big as you think she should be, but people definitely consider her to be bigger than what, you know, they would typically cast. So like that in itself, like she's in the category. Like just because she's not as fat or like as big as you want her to be.
That's the thing is like we actually don't know if Hollywood was like, listen, you either get her or you get this super skinny twig. Pick one.
Right.
Like so it's like if that was really our only choice, then we kind of have to be like, well, this is honestly like the step in the right direction, but better than it.
And we as consumers never know the casting process. Ever. In any project ever. They never give us any.
That's the thing. It's like the thing is that the fact that everyone has Twitter and everybody's like, oh, I can read the books and I can be involved in this thing means that everyone feels entitled to have an opinion on something that they know nothing about. So it's like you can have your opinion about whatever, but it doesn't mean that you have to go on the internet, type out a tweet, and then harass a person off of the internet. Like, don't ever do that.
Like, I want the process to be more transparent, but I'm also like, but then people abuse that and bully people off of the internet.
Right, because everyone always finds like, oh, is that the case? Well, let me find something wrong with it. And it's literally just another like strain of the devil's advocate happening like all over again, where it's like, you said this thing and it seems like it's okay, but I'm gonna find a way to say that it's problematic by saying that this is what's wrong. And it's like there's so many actually problematic things we could be talking about right now, but you just like want to be mad about something. Be mad, but do it on your own time. Like write in your journal. You don't have to go harass someone who's not involved.
Rachel, did you guys see like 2 months ago when there was an article that went out that Freddie Carter said that he practiced his limp so it would look natural, and people were mad because they're like, no disabled person would ever think that their limp would be natural. I'm like, he's an actor.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about the fact that people were like, they should have cast a disabled person for Kaz?
I mean, I think it would have been good if they did, but I also don't hate Freddie.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we don't know the casting process, and like how many people that have to live with a limp are going to look specifically like Kaz, going to act specifically like Kaz, you know?
Like, I mean, I think it would have been possible, but I also feel like it's a little different when it's sort of like, okay, so for instance, there's, I don't know, is it called Music or something? The Sia film? Where they were going to cast somebody who, like, again, I don't even really feel like it's the actress's fault because she's really young. And Sia basically, bullied her
enough to know not to.
I mean, has groomed that poor girl for years.
There was some grooming in that situation.
Yeah, that relationship was so weird.
You know, again, I don't have such a strong opinion. I need to fight anyone on the internet about it. But I don't really feel like it's the same thing with Kaz because it's sort of like there's a difference between like completely like putting on a caricature of what you think a disability looks like. Or like what a neurodivergence looks like, and then acting it out for like an hour on screen in a movie versus like should, you know, like if a disabled person with a limp is like, I'm ready to do this role and they would be able to safely do it and not really harm themselves.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a problem with them getting cast. I think it would be fine. But at the same time, I think if an actor is like, I have been cast for this role and I'm supposed to have a disability, should I look like I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what a disability looks like, or should I study it so that way when I perform it, someone who is disabled could look at it and be like, oh, that looks accurate to when I have to limp because that's like my lived experience. So I feel like it's kind of valuable for an actor to be like, you know, I care enough about this that I'm going to study it.
Yeah.
But, like there is part of like the bigger conversation of like, why didn't they cast this person? And I think it's sort of like, I don't know enough about what it's like to live with a limp because I don't live with a limp. I'd like to hear from people who like actually are in that community and what they think about it. But I also kind of feel like it's sort of the same thing of like white performatism where like people are like, let's talk about racism. I have a lot to say. And it's like, you aren't in the group. So
yeah,
like, you don't feel like you just want to have something to say. So I
Even
don't
then,
know.
the communities are so big. Like, not everyone is going to have the same opinion about it.
Yeah,
I
think
mean,
that's totally fine, but
yeah.
I also feel like for a lot of like abled people to be like, let me weigh in on the conversation what I think it is. And it's like, put in your journal, bring it to therapy. You don't have to tell the internet. Seriously, like
Right.
that's your opinion, and your opinion's actually supposed to live in here. It doesn't have to make it out here or
Right.
into here. Like, I'm
For
just
sure.
everyone feeling like, let me go tell everyone what I think about this thing that I honestly don't know what I'm talking about. Is like a
Right.
whole phenomenon on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like if we took a step back and looked at this from its
Go
completely
touch
outside
some
perspective.
grass. Just go touch some grass.
Contextualize it. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not on Twitter.
Probably for the
It's a
best.
scary place.
In conclusion, I have a Twitter that I go on every other month.
And that is
I
the
love
best
that.
thing for your mental health, honestly. We do need to wrap up. We've all got, I know some people have
Oh.
class, we've got other things to do at 8:00. So thank you so much for being on this. We really went down the path of just deconstructing Hollywood here, and I love it.
The last 30 minutes.
That's how you start with a TV show and you end up dismantling Hollywood.
So,
We're not just here to simp, okay? We're here
That was great.
to
We're here to
deconstruct
dismantle.
Hollywood.
We're here to
It's
fully
I'm
dismantle.
here to simp.
Okay, true.
I mean, unfortunately, my background of Jesper with the goat did not come through as I thought it would. So that
I
was the main
noticed like
thing for
halfway
me.
through. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
If I could move it around, nope, it doesn't make a difference.
I've been trying to
Okay.
figure out what that was this whole time, to be honest.
It was Jesper with the goat.
It's
but I
a
couldn't
I
good
thought it
one
was
today.
Good old
Okay.
Milo.
I thought it was like Mal and Alina hugging.
Yeah,
or
me
something.
too. I was like,
Oh my
they hugging?
gosh.
That's nice.
Their height
my God, it
difference
does.
when they hug gives me so much
Precious.
life. Ugh.
I was not
Okay.
expecting that high difference between Kaz and Inej. Okay. Wrap it
No,
up.
sorry. I agree with you, but we do gotta
Yeah,
wrap.
we gotta go.
We can talk about it more in the grand finale, probably on Saturday. I haven't gotten confirmation on that, but if you are watching now, we are going to probably have our next one on Saturday talking about 7 and 8, which I'm very excited about because those are 2 really good episodes as well.
Oh, yeah.
So please join us. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Katie, Rachel, Christine, Rhea, Catherine, Yasmin. I appreciate you all. Go give them all a sub if you aren't already, but you probably are.
And
And
Stephanie.
and Stephanie, yeah, because Stephanie, you've been killing it with the engagement. Thank you. Love
I
you.
know. Thank you for being
Yes,
here.
we love you.
Thank you,
The devil's
Stephanie.
avocado.
Devil's avocado.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.